The riders gathering in Aime, that's just down the mountain from La Plagne, in quite a happy mood this morning. The sun is on their backs in sharp contrast to the bad weather which hit the back end of the race last night. Just after we went off air, the thunderstorms hit and it absolutely poured down on the tail-enders coming in. But today then, just 153 riders left on the stage from 162 kilometres to Alpe d'Huez. 11 riders were eliminated yesterday, so that pack of riders is much slimmed down. And out of the race yesterday came those 11 riders outside the time limit. Bowmans, Moncassin, Lance, Gouverneau, Morils, Frison, De Klerk, Ludwig, Verdonk, Serrada and Menin, and we lost to 5 riders who abandoned as well. So whilst they may be cheerful at the start, nevertheless they've got a very tough day ahead of them, because we've got not only 2 sprints just to shake it up as far as the green jersey is concerned, but 3 Hoare category climbs along the route. And like all good men, I suppose, thinking they're going to gallows, they might have a joke amongst themselves, but believe you me, it's going to be a tough old day in the saddle. The riders having to contest this right route today is actually going to cover 101 miles. They did 100 miles yesterday, and tremendous speed. You think yesterday 4 hours and 41 minutes was the winner's time for the distance, and they're going to do somewhat the same today. I think with the big long climbs it may be a little bit slower, probably around about 5 hours of racing today, and there'll be some very tired legs down there amongst those bike riders, some of whom will be again hanging on for grim death today, hoping to get through this stage, so that as they roll out from Aime La Plagne towards the Alpe d'Huez, they will be able to survive this particular stage and be down into the flatter stuff for the next couple of days. But Miguel Indurain in the yellow jersey still dominating this race. We'll see him further down the road as well, and I'm sure that Zuller, who battled hard yesterday, take that yellow jersey off, he might well have another go today, but he could be very, very tired indeed. The massive crowds are already out along the route further down the road in the mountains, waiting for the riders to arrive, these giants of the road, and rolling out then from the start at Aime La Plagne, heading out towards the Alpe d'Huez. 162 kilometres to cover today. Well, looking down at that great group, I see a big figure of Eros Polly right at the top corner of the screen, moving through. These riders jam-packed together here. It's quite a rolling wide start to begin with, but then they cut off and go into some very, very narrow roads, and it'll certainly go to squeeze, a bit like squeezing toothpaste from a tube. And the riders, therefore, I think will be quite happy to stroll along here, for want of a better expression. In fact, we don't start the first climb of the day until we've done some about 21 kilometres in fact. They go through Moutier and then to Velocom, where the first sprint will be held, and then I'm quite sure that all hell will be let loose on the climb of the Col de Madeleine. That first climb which they're going to tackle will be a climb up to 2,000 metres above sea level, and they will start at 400 metres above sea level at the sprint point. Rolling along here at a reasonable pace today. The average speed yesterday for that 4 hours and 41 minutes for the 100 miles worked out at 21.33 kilometres per hour. I worked it out last night when I got back to the hotel bedroom. It was an enormous traffic jam, by the way, last night at La Plagne, because these ski resorts don't have lots of other roads for people to get off. And by the time some of the front vehicles are going down one road and the spectators were sort of making their bedraggled way down the mountain as well, behind them the cavalcade was trying to find its way to the way out. The journalists were trying to find their way to the press room. The officials were all trying to find their hotels, and we had a traffic jam, and nothing seemed to move for about an hour. The only thing that did move was the rain. It came down by the bucket load, and everybody was walking around soaked to the skin, and some of the riders who came in later on in what we call the bus were in the worst of the weather. After we finished yesterday, I think we probably saw the riders around about 20th place coming in on Eurosport, but after that the big group that came in were at 34 and a half minutes down, headed by Tirlon. That was from number 76 right the way down to number 135. So we had about 50 riders that came in what they call the bus. You can see here, by the way, the strapping on the elbow. We haven't had, fortunately, all as many crashes since we came out of the flat faster stages, but yesterday 1 or 2 riders did abandon as as a result of the injury they'd suffered earlier on during the race. And I haven't yet found out what happened to the motorcyclist who dropped his motorbike, and his cameraman, I think it was a cameraman or a broadcaster, got thrown off the bike and finished it in the back of a car. Looking through there at the Motorola rider, 115, Alvaro Mejia. Well, he rode very well indeed yesterday. Again, he came in, I'll say well indeed, he came in 7 minutes and 31 seconds down on Zuller, and that was a very useful ride for him, because it's keeping him in contention on the overall general classification, the best placed Motorola rider now, because yesterday, despite the fact that Armstrong tried to bridge the gap to Zuller, he blew on a mighty gasket and really took a bit of a pasting and dropped way down yesterday. In fact, he finished 17 minutes and 57 seconds down, did Armstrong yesterday, having launched that attack and trying to get up with Alex Zuller. Now, they're disappearing into this tunnel. This is one of the shorter ones, by the way, but later on we're going to go through the very long ones. Some of the tunnels are around about 1 kilometre long, very dark, and as you go through them you can just see a little light at the end, of the tunnel. So it'll be rather drafty. I think with riders, when they go through the very, very warm conditions and into the tunnel, the tunnels aren't made of nice walling, by the way, like going down the Mersey tunnel with some nice decoration there. It is just a rock, hewn out of rock, and some dampness can come down too out of that rock, and it's a very, very chilly place indeed. Bit like going down a black hole of Calcutta, but the Calcutta is a lot warmer than some of these tunnels they're going. So there you can see that road cut through there, and they're going to be working their way then up towards the first big climb of the day. Camera giving you some beautiful views of this part of the world. They're popping out the other side. What do you like about that? We're going to be in a saddle, by the way, with the riders for the whole thing, about 5 hours today. So if you good people have just popped home, it's only 11 o'clock, or that's 11 back in the UK. We're 12:15 here in the Alpe d'Huez, and here's to the gloom come the vehicles. They're sort of 2 by 2 at the moment, but later on we're going to go down these very narrow little tunnels where in fact there's hardly room for 2 vehicles to cross, so they'll probably go through in single file the traffic there. What happens in these vehicles following the race, by the way, on the right hand side of the road, as you're travelling behind the race, go all the team vehicles after the official cars. On the left hand side you'll get the press vehicles, and you can loop in and out them in a sort of zigzag formation up to front if they're called up, and the team cars following on behind are in reverse order of the team classification, so that if one of their riders has a problem, they can get up there to him. And so the classification moment, Onse have got Zuller in that starting too early in the day here. Indurain, of course, leading overall in the yellow jersey, so Benesto car will be the first one in that long string behind the riders here. The Nobel riders on the right-hand side still searching for that victory, with Abdul Japarov. He hauled his chunky frame over the mountains yesterday as well, and hasn't been eliminated, unlike the big sprinter from the Telecom team, Olaf Ludwig, who's held the green jersey in the Tour de France in the past. He got eliminated. He came in 53 minutes and 55 seconds down. Now, Ludwig just wouldn't give up on the day. He would just ride himself out, and he was just outside the time limit. And when he came in with the rain pouring down, he really looked in an awful state, and we're sorry to have lost Olaf. He's a nice character, good sprinter, and so that's another one going out as far as Telecom concerned. He's a good lead-out man for Zabel, who won at the stage between Dunkirk and Charleroi, so that's taken out the lead-out man as far as he's concerned. As a Bergman, perhaps he's looking for a stage victory, maybe down at Saint-Etienne, or one of the later stages we get somewhat flatter conditions. Perhaps Bordeaux, that's always a sprinter specialist, is the Bordeaux stage, if they survive the Pyrenees, of course. Right in the middle of that group there, I can see Eros Polly, 1, 2, 3, 4 from the left-hand side, and Eros Polly lives in Verona now. Of course, that's the famous place for Romeo and Juliet, and then like Eros, the god of love, what a better place to live.
Live.
The riders today tackling this stage of 10 of 162 kilometres. Indurain in the lead, 8 minutes 14 seconds there ahead of Jalabert. That's Jalabert's back down on the general classification in sixth spot. You can see we're going down to 10th, 11th here. Pantani's got a lot to do in the climbs if he's going to disrupt him there. Veronk, by the way, back there in 13th spot, 14 minutes and 20 seconds down. He said he got a bit of bronchitis at the moment, has been coughing and spluttering a bit, and that was his excuse for not being able to hold the pace yesterday when Indurain went away. But really, Indurain, that performance now taking him up into the yellow jersey. He's got a lead of 20. Let's see, his lead on the Zuller is 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Rees back in third spot, 5 minutes and 58. Rominger back in fourth spot at 6 minutes and 35, and Gotti back in fifth spot at 6:54. The demolition job done by Indurain yesterday to put himself well up there in the yellow jersey. The riders stringing along for the start of the stage. They're now, as you can see, 171 Cipollini is not started now, so we're down now to 152 riders after yesterday. 11 riders were eliminated and 5 failed to finish, so Cipollini is now out of this stage, which is going to take the riders over 3 Hall category climbs and through 2 sprints then. Some 101 miles of racing, 162 kilometres to be covered, and the field taking on the flatter part of the course before we hit the big climb up to the Col de Madeleine, which is going to be the first big climb of the day after 47.5 kilometres will have been covered. And that climb up there takes them some 25.3 kilometres of climbing, and that means around about 16 miles on the long old drag up to the top. The road here quite wide, but they're going to be on a very, very narrow part of the course, and so most of the big men getting towards the front, hoping not to be shelled out if they really start to attack that climb then, with the yellow jersey on the shoulders of Miguel Indurain. 2 minutes 27 seconds ahead of Alex Zuller. Third place then, Bjorn Rees, 5:58. Tony Rominger in fourth place at 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Gotti in fifth at 6:54. Jalabert back in sixth spot. Where's the green jersey at 8 minutes 14 seconds down, and somehow I think with his climbing ability has been restored since he had that bag crash in the Tour de France 12 months ago. I think he's every chance, subject of course to evading any sickness, of keeping that green jersey on his shoulders, because his nearest competitor in the sprint classification, Abdur Japarov, has got 157 points, and so I think Abdur's going to have to really work hard to try and get that jersey back. The gang of riders here on the front chatting away, just keeping a nice steady pace, and this is the job of the domestics. Just put the lid on it, lads, and just keep the thing rolling along, and also gives the lads time to just get their legs nice and mobile after the thunder and the terrible conditions that we had yesterday on the stage then up into La Plagne. The Castro riders looking reasonably happy. The one man who took an awful pasting yesterday was Jackie Durand, and he really struggled in. He was obviously very elated to have taken the yellow jersey in the prologue time trial. He kept it for a couple of days, but yesterday he finished 143rd, 37 minutes and 21 seconds down on Alex Zuller, the winner of the stage. So he really took an awful pasting on that stage yesterday. Another man who came in looking very, very rough indeed. I know my good friend Mike was a great Andrew Chamil supporter. Well, Mike, I have to tell you, he was down 149th spot, 41 minutes and 16 seconds down. He had an awful job yesterday. Another man who looked very sprightly earlier on and was bouncing around like a 2-year-old when the race was in its early stages, Eric van der Raden, who came in 152nd, and he was 43 minutes and 52 seconds down. In fact, they drew the line just after that. Dante Retzi came in with him, 153rd overall at 43 minutes and 52, and after that they eliminated the next 11 riders. Carlo Bowmans, Frederic Van Kassen, Pascal Lance, Thierry Gouveneau, Sammy Morils, Herman Friesen, Peter de Klerk, Olav Ludwig, Rudi Verdonk, Jan Serrada, there's a sprinter who couldn't haul his frame over the big hills like Olav Ludwig either, and Christophe Menien out of the race. The other people out yesterday, Emmanuel Magnin abandoned, Mario de Klerk abandoned, Jelen Idem also abandoned, as did Silvio Martinello and Roberto Petito. So we're down now to 152 riders as Cipollini has climbed off his bike. Not surprising, I was most congratulating him on getting to the finish yesterday, when you consider that so many people got in, were eliminated outside the time limit. Well, Cipollini, not in the sort of ideal conditions. I'm sure it did no good at all to his nicely permed hair, the way in which that rain came down. It came down in a bucket's load as we finished the stage. It was just amazing, and I suppose up there somehow that the gods had decided that as Zuller had the nerve Plagne-L'Alpe to challenge the bold Miguel Indurain that they would let fly. And the clanging cowbells on the way up through the Alps gave way to claps of thunder and hail and rain belted down on the bedraggled main bunch of tarred survivors. But up in front, the battle raged between Zuller and Indurain. And if you didn't see it on our coverage yesterday, you know somebody who taped it, just have a look at the way that Indurain responded to Zuller on that final, half hour or so of racing. It really was an epic, and I think it's something I shall look forward to getting a copy of and keeping it to look at in later years, because we've seen Miguel Indurain now 3 times absolutely right on the rivet. First of all going to Liège when he took off with about 15 kilometres to go and towed Brunel with him. Brunel taking the stage victory and the yellow jersey, but the determination to go away from the field and distance himself from his rivals so that he could start behind them on the time trial, it was just an absolute act of sheer bravado on Indurain's part. He did it, and then on the time trial stage again, we all thought, well, he was only about 2.5 minutes up on most of his contenders, that perhaps despite the fact he rode very hard and you could see it on his face, he hadn't quite got the power when we came to the mountains. Well, he proved us all wrong yesterday, and everybody was saying afterwards, that's it, Indurain now has put the lid on the whole race. In fact, lovely cartoon in Lake Keep this morning, and there is Indurain at the top. There's a sort of big black cloud in the background, very, very black it is, and you can see the sort of white little edges to the cloud and the rain coming down, and this long, tall cartoon, if I'm trying to describe it to you, and this fellow is right up in the black cloud, holding what is obviously a great big bill, an addition in French, and this addition has got Zuller 227, Rees 558, and go on, it goes all the way down on the general classification. At the bottom, past Maori, there's little sketches of all these riders sort of falling over in a big heap at the bottom, and it says the bill in it's Spanish at the top, says the bill, and the little rider at the bottom says he's not even going to take my credit card. Yesterday Indurain made them all pay for it in a grand style. Brilliant ride yesterday. I say if you can get a copy of the of that result, then have a copy of our tape, then do just get that and have a look at what went on that day. The riders at this part of the course heading up towards the finish at the Alpe d'Huez, and that is the mountain resort. That's a mountain resort where the skiing goes on. I'm sorry, I paused just then because the man came and lobbed a lot more results at us, and in fact I got a whole stack of them in the press room last night, where some delightful ladies not only showed me where my hotel was, which I left at just gone 6 o'clock this morning, it's 5 o'clock your time back in Great Britain, but also gave us a nice bottle of some liqueur that's produced locally, and I just, because my throat was a bit dry last night, I thought I'll just have a little drop of this liqueur. Firewater. I'm sure it's just for the skiers when they get lost in the mountains that they'll preserve their bodies in the snow when they get found or something. Oh, it was lovely. Okay, so I'm a bit hoarse this morning, you know, it's taken the back off my throat. And so on the way up today then, they're going to climb up the Alpe d'Huez, which was first used by the Tour de France way back in 1952. That was the first time that the climb up the Alpe d'Huez had been used, and since then it's featured quite significantly in this race, and it has in the past been a bit of a benevolent for the Dutch riders. The climbs up here recently, the Dutch have dominated it, although if we go back the last 3 years it was Bunyo and Hampson in that sort of order, but before that in 1989 Tunisia got it, before that Rooks got it in 88, and so it began to be known as the Dutch mountain, because also in 1976 Zoetemelk, 1977 Kuiper, 1978 Kuiper, Agostino got it in 79, Zoetemelk got it back again, then Vinnen got it. So you can imagine here, see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 victories at the Alpe d'Huez by the riders from Holland, and there are 17 victories also, only 9 victories have gone elsewhere. And you think really that the Dutch, being mainly a flat nation, might have happily come in last, but no, they bumped up there and won that way. There are the riders popping out there in this lovely region of Savoy. It's quite green in the summer and very white in the winter, and there's some lovely old spas and lakeside resorts resorts along here, and if you want to go on those lakes windsurfing, you can get that as well. There's some nice old resorts and old chalets and what have you. And of course up there, if you want to go into the Alps themselves, where there's still some skiing going on, by the way, and you can often get some cheap self-catering up there, so you can just go up there, have a nice summer holiday, or alternatively take your skis, because I noticed a man this morning at the crack of dawn setting off with his skis, because right up in the mountains there are still some glacier which they can go skiing upon. I also saw one or two people having looked down the polar heart monitor and his computer there. One of the, he's pointing to his heart rate at the moment. Actually, what they do, by the way, oh, it's Stephen Hodge. Hello, Stephen. Yes, he's probably saying, there's my heart rate monitor. I had a good night's sleep. Adrian, hope the kiddie back at home, that the teething is going on nicely too as well, because his little baby daughter's teething at the moment. Where was I? Oh, yes, that the chalets you can stay in are quite pleasant up there, and you can go skiing as well. And I saw quite a number of people hobbling around on crutches, so be careful if you're going skiing. It seems you can come down an awful bang even at this time of the year. Now you can see the mountains on the right hand side, and the left hand side, this part of the world here, the Alps. It's really what I suppose you might call the crossroads of Europe. It's got Switzerland and Italy not far away from it, and the French Alps with some absolutely awesome beauty, and you can have a lovely time here on holiday this time of the year, and there's some lovely friendly people here too as well, and they also have some nice wine. Twists and turns off the main road are beginning to slim the riders out. They're going to find themselves later on going through a very grotty part, to a very industrial part, and it's very narrow and lots of potholes too, so the mechanics might find themselves rather busy. And there you can see one of these little putting courses down below. We didn't have a good look at La Plagne too much in all the horrible weather yesterday, but they've got a marvellous bob run down there, which is used in the Olympic Games, and that's also part of the area where you do it for mountain biking. Somehow they've got their own sort of version of the bob run down. I think it must be rather horrific there. And the Mappe team staying near the front. I wonder if they're going to try and launch Tony Romick today. He looked like he's taking a bit of a pasting yesterday, but you never know what can happen. Some of these riders recover better than others, and we've still got the Pyrenees yet to come, so perhaps some are still saving or trying to hope they can just recover and keep a bit more strength for later on. The little run then from Aime towards 146 kilometres to go, and they're heading up along this valley into the narrow parts of the route. Just having a look at my map here to find the name of that river, but either the print's too small or my eyes are getting a bit tired. I can't pick it out for you. Sorry about that. It'll no doubt come to me later on. Eros Polly on the left-hand side there, they're saying lives in Verona now with his wife, who's an Australian, and Verona, as I mentioned a bit back, that's where Romeo and Juliet, that's where it's all situated, and Eros means God of Love, so he met his wife when he's out racing in Australia, and his English is improving dramatically, and of course he's 6'3", so he and I can have an eye-to-eye look at each other when we're chatting away, and he's the tallest man in the race this year, Eros Polly. And the little man, the smallest man, has now disappeared from the scene, because Rodriguez was the smallest at 1.60 m, and Polly and Sierra are 1.94 m. We also took the pulse rates of these riders, and the slowest pulse rate. This is, of course, in the drama of getting yourself checked by the doctor, as Polly goes one way and the Castromas go another. The pulse rate of Leon van Boom was 35 pulses a minute, and there were in fact 86 riders who had pulse rates of less than 50 per minute, and that when you imagine they're walking about, rushing around, all the drama of having their medical tests before, they're not relaxed at all, so you can just see how slow some of the heartbeats are of these riders. The heaviest man is again Eros Polly. Where's he gone to now? In the middle there, and Bontempi. They're both on weight 88 kilograms, and the lightest was Rodriguez at 56.5 kilograms. That's a fellow just 1.60 m, but he's retired from the race. The ages range from 22 years of age to 36, and therefore if you want to average that lot out, you've been scratching it down, I'll do the sums for you. In fact, I'm nicking it here off the special communique for the medical people when we started. It was 28 years of age is the average age of the riders in the Tour this year. The average height is 1.79 m, and the average weight is 71.6 kilograms, and the average pulse rate is 52 pulses a minute. So now you know what it's all about. You can basically, when you take your choice, you get all this information. It sounds like Dr. Kildare, doesn't it? Oh, no, that was a long time ago. Still taking it relatively easy, and I wonder if anybody's going to be as bold as Zuller was yesterday. Just imagine that. He did 100 kilometres on his own to take the stage victory. That's 60 miles, and although the gap was cut back at the finish when Indurain got to within 2 minutes and 2 seconds of him. If you're watching our programme, you remember yesterday I was giving out time checks, and the maximum that he got when he was being checked back to the peloton was 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Well, if you realise that except for Indurain, who came in 2 minutes and 2 seconds down, Pavel Tonkov 4 minutes 11 seconds, Pantani 4:37, Gotti 4:37. The next rider after Zuller was Veronk at 6 minutes and 5 seconds. So in fact, what happened yesterday was that Zuller, even though he went through a bad patch on the final climb for the day, distanced himself further from all the riders from 6 backwards. That gives you some measure of Alex Zuller's performance yesterday, that despite the furious chasing that was going on, only Indurain, Tonkov, Pantani and Gotti could do anything about cutting that 5.5 minute or 5 minute 50 second deficit that they had sustained when they were getting in towards the back end of the race. So it wasn't so much that Zuller faded towards the end. He was going on like a Swiss clock. That he comes from Switzerland, so tick-tock all the way up to the top of the climb, and managed to take out time of all the riders except Indurain, Tonkov and Pantani. Pantani, of course, being a little mountain goat, was showing good form yesterday, climbing quite well and very smoothly. He took Gotti up with him, and they distanced themselves from Veronk. And today, the types of climbs we're going over might well suit Pantani, and perhaps we might get an Italian victory at the Alpe d'Huez this year. We'll have to wait and see. The riders then heading towards the first of the big climb of the day. I mentioned earlier that the climb of the Alpe d'Huez was first used way back in 1952 when Fausto Coppi won the stage then. And in 1952, that was 43 years ago, when Fausto Coppi got it. Not only was the finish at the Alpe d'Huez the first time that it was used, but the following day it went to Siestria for the first time. Sprint coming up after 20 kilometres, and you can see then that little green flashing light, how suddenly it goes up into the sky. And I said to you before, if you look at that up and down conky map in front of you, or the profile, that it's going to be a hard day in the saddle, and for us commentators too. I'll apologise if you've got to put up with me for the next 5 hours, good people back at home. Nip off and make yourself a cup of tea from time to time. I'll try and update you as well if you've got to go out and do your shopping or something, or if you... I wonder how many people are burying their grandmothers today and decided to take the day off. So let's see if the sprint will go here with Polly on the front. Well, it's no good looking back to see what's happened to Cipollini. Eros, he's retired from the race, and so now you can see them trying to set this one up for Abdul Japarov, who still wants to get every point he can. The Nobel team on the front, the green jersey for Jalabert back into third spot just behind Abdul Japarov. This is going to be the first sprint of the day, and Abdul Japarov will whip through and try and get this one now. Moncassin also in there with a good sprint, but to the left switches Jalabert and Abdul Japarov in the middle. Abdul Japarov forces his way through now. He's got about half a length lead. Abdul Japarov going for it. Yes, Abdul Japarov just taking that one. Jalabert was back into third spot, and into second spot was the rider from the Mercatone Uno team, and we'll have to wait for confirmation on that one. It might have been Lely, but I'll have to wait for confirmation on that one on our screen in just a moment. Let's look at that one from the top. As in the centre then is Abdul Japarov, right hand side is Jalabert. Let's see if he gets it. Just on the line, throws his bike at it. So that was him. And we'll wait for confirmation of that after this slow motion here, because we can see still yet again a good sprint from Abdul Japarov, nicely timed. But I say he's way down at the moment on the points classification in the green jersey, but he's going to fight all his way. A sterling performance then to take the first sprint of the day. Abdul Japarov over the line in first spot. The riders then streaming away after that first 20-kilometre sprint of the day.
Live.
The confirmation of the sprint then at Belacom. Abdul Japrov was first, Jalaba in second spot, and the young up-and-coming ride of Mercato Nuno, who's now without Cipollini and Martinello to be the number ones in the sprinting. The fellow who got them was Gian Matteo Fagnini. He's again one of these riders in the young classification. Whoops! Oh, look at that! Bouncing around, just checking the results there for you, and I saw a bit of bunny hopping, and I think it looked a bit like Gerard Roux that found himself in trouble, and certainly not far down the road as this whole thing narrows. They're going to find themselves with somewhat narrow roads with bad edges to them, just like that. They also, by the way, when they drop off some of these bands, will find the roads very good indeed. They've been out repairing the roads in many places and putting a new surface on them. I suppose the one thing, if you want your roads resurfaced, you get the Tour de France to come through it, and out goes the man with the rollers and the tarmac and makes the job somewhat better for all concerned when the race has gone through. And you see with a tightly packed group of riders like this, if you just get somebody who falls off and the rest come down, it's just like a pack of cards, and a stack-up brings them to a bit of a halt. And one of the worst stack-ups at the slow motion like we've had this year so far was Henrik Redont, who came down, and we're sorry to miss you, Henrik. They came out of Alençon and down he went in the neutralised zone and suffered lots of bangs and broken, I think he broke his collarbone amongst other things, and perhaps he's now back in Belgium, and we wish you a very happy and a very fast recovery and a happy return to cycling as soon as you can do. The riders that were outside the time limit yesterday that I said got abandoned, in fact Moncassin, who came in 45 minutes and 38 seconds down, he'd had a bad crash. He did his elbow in, and he bumped his head as well, and in fact the commissaires have allowed him back in again. So in fact there were only 10 eliminated yesterday. They took consideration of the fact that Moncassin had the crash, so the Nobel team have got their useful sprinter in there, and that's allowed him to live again yet again. So you can imagine, even though the bloke came off and came in outside the time limit, 45 minutes and 38 seconds down, he's back in the race today, and that is to me I think indicative of the courage of all of these riders. You see that bunch down there, and some of these riders who came in yesterday so far down on the victors, it's like anything else. You go in a race, the man who finishes the race first in the shortest possible time, you might say, has less pain and suffering. The people at the back got the worst of the weather, and yet here they are again today, and they all want to get to Paris to the finish on Sunday week, when it's a great big carnival atmosphere, and you see all the spectators out in the glorious sunshine, many of them just holiday makers who take an opportunity of seeing the Tour de France. But also you might watch later on towards the back end, our cameras pick up one or two of the banners on the side of the road and the camper vans and so on, because we do have the bicycling Bedouins with us, the people who strike camp every night and move on to the next part of the course to watch these giants of the road go through. So not only is it a long old 3 weeks for many of these riders here in the saddle, but many of the followers have moved round, travelling through the night to find a good camping spot further on down to cheer on their cycling heroes up the mountains and encourage them on their way through. There we can see Uchikov from the Polti team. They've moved the cameras across now, but he was the one in the yellow and the green on the far side. I also noticed that the Austrian supporters have been out because of Tostig's name. I saw that written up as well. So the supporters are coming from far and wide, and I've seen some supporters on the side of the road too with a Polish sign there, out for Jaskula in a Polish car, and a few years ago we would never have seen that. Now the Iron Curtain's down, the people have slowly but surely begin to become a little more affluent, and therefore they're getting motor cars and can travel out on holiday into the western part of a country they couldn't used to come to in the past. And I just wonder how long it'll be before we see the flags waving and the signs out there in Russian to support the Russian cyclists who in recent years have been going so well in cycling. Unfortunately, the best Russian who we were looking for to do well in the Tour de France this year, Eugenie Berzin, he finished 32nd yesterday, 17 minutes and 29 seconds down, and when he came across the line you could see the disappointment written all over his face. He had hoped that the form he was beginning to show would enable him to challenge Indurain for that jersey, but in the end he got shot off, and his teammate Chengielta stopped back with him for a long old time, and in the end Chengielta decided to push on and leave him, and Bruno Chengielta came in 30th spot, 14 minutes and 25 seconds down, And about 3 minutes later, Journey Virgin rolled across the line looking very damp and miserable indeed. Well, he's back in the race today, so I suppose what he can do now is we're now going up there, 25 kilometres to the summit. And if you want to sort of work out kilometres into English miles, you divide by 8, multiply by 5. So 3/8 are 24. That's 15 miles, 15 and a bit miles to the top of this summit. And here we are. There's going to be all these zigzags all the way up, the hairpin bends for these riders on this ride up the top of the Col de la Madeleine. And you can see one of the little mountain goats cutting up on the inside, those green and white jerseys of the Calme riders. They will now, I think, be revelling the warm conditions and the uphill bits. One or two of the bigger fellows at the back will just be hoping that the pace won't be too hard too soon and they can stay with the gap. And of course the big fellows normally try and recover and regroup on the way down the other side. But the gaps will begin to open up before long. We're still 15 miles of climbing up the top, and it's 2,000 metres above sea level. When we saw that sprint down the road, they were 450 metres above sea level, so they would actually go up 1,550 metres, which in feet is about 4,700 feet. Roughly multiplied by 3 and a bit. A metre is 1 yard and 3 inches, 39 inches as such, and so it's about 4,700 feet of climbing. There's nothing like it in Great Britain. You have to come down here to go along the roads to understand what it is really like for these riders to tackle these great big mountain climbs, and you just marvel at it. You look back down the valley to think they ride these bikes up, and yes, they just imagine it, that Zulla averaged 21 miles an hour for 100 miles. I mean, there's quite a number of bike riders many years ago riding a 100-mile time trial on the flat. The ordinary average clubman as such would be quite happy to get inside 5 hours for 100 miles. And in fact, if you got inside 4.5 hours, you were going quite quickly. But these lads have just done that yesterday and climbed those big mountains as well. So they're travelling here probably around about 16, 17 miles an hour. Of course, when they're dropping the other side, they're touching up to 50 miles. Now, that's how you get the average speed out. But the climb they've got now then up the top, they will have covered 47.5 kilometres of the stage by the time they get to the top of the Col de Madeleine, out of the 162 kilometres they got to cover today. That's just about 101 and a bit miles. Still there is Polly in the front there, one of these big chaps who's doing the right thing, just to sit on the front, and then you just hang on for grim death as the rest come sliding past you, and just hope to follow wheels and that you can regroup on the drop down the other side. Bouncing up towards the top, about 24 kilometres to go now.
Live.
The riders on this long drag up the top of the Col de Madeleine. Still neatly grouped together. One or two find a little bit of difficulty hanging on at the back. There you can see it beginning to take effect, but still a nice little group on the front. The cameraman decided to stay at the back to have a little look at the chaps who might be struggling. That's quite a nice thing to do, because it gives you some idea here, as we're on air right the way through, that our producer decided to watch the race from the back rather than, as we often see, we just spend all our time at the front. And it gives you some idea of how the domestics, as they call them, the riders who've got a fetch and carry for the team. Well, look, he's going back to dropping off the crash out here. I think he's deciding that it's probably going to be a bit too hot for him today, and that's Angel Edo. Edo's a very good sprinter, but he's been struggling a little bit in the mountains so far, and they're going to give it, I think, crash out to one of the motorcycles to drop it back down towards the towards his team car at the back. The two big climbs that we're going to have before we get to the Alpe d'Huez, the Col de Madeleine is the next one up here. The Croix de Fer is the one we're going to take on after that one, 2,068 metres above sea level. We've been over there in several times now. 47 Camolini got it, 48 Bartali, 52 Coppi, and I'll talk about the whole fast in just a moment, because that's he went on to win the stage into the Alpe d'Huez. 56 Marigil, 61 Ingolin, 63 Matteo, 66 Galeras, 86 Hino, 89 Tunisa, and 1992 Boya over the climb of the Crofer, the Iron Cross, which is the next climb after they've gone over this one, over the Madeleine. Still at the back, the Col de Madeleine. Ahead of them, the first man over that was in 1969, because a lot of the roads over the top here just couldn't be used for cycle racing. They were just little mountain tracks, only suitable for goats and horses and carts. And even though they used to take the riders over some mountain passes in the old days, it wasn't until recently that they were really opened up and that the riders were able to go over them. We first went over the Col de Madeleine in 1969 when Gandaris was the first to cross there. Then 1973, Jean-Pierre d'Anguillarme. Jean-Pierre d'Anguillarme is now the French PR man for the Coca-Cola company, very much involved in the race, as you've probably seen by the banners and the finishing straight. So he's found himself to stay in the cycle trade somewhat through his Coca-Cola involvement. 1975, Galdos was the first one over the top of the Col de Madeleine. Then 1977, Chameau. 79, Van Impe there, that great climber went on to win the Tour de France. Martinez in 1980, again 81 was Van Impe, and 83. So Van Impe's been over the top of this climb 3 times in the lead. Delgado went over the top first in 1984. In 1987 it's Fuerte. 1988 it was Abadi. 1990 was Claviola, and 1994 was Ugramov. That when we went over last year, we came the other way, by the way, last year. I took a double take when I looked at the route and realised we were going the reverse of it. And then when you go down the other side, you'll probably see some signs written backwards if the cameras pick them up. This is when they went the other way. Some of the names for Tony Rominger and Alex Zuller, which I spotted, are facing the other way because we're going the reverse of the route that we took last year when Ugramov went over the top in first spot. Ugramov, if you saw the early part of our transmission on the Tour de France and took note of the comments then, or read about it in your cycling press, he's not riding because he's had 2 cracked ribs when the mountain biker hit him on the ribs before the start of the hang on, was it Tour de Switzerland? Yes, Tour de Switzerland. The Tour de Suisse, when he got cracked in the ribs, and that affected him somewhat. He did think at one time he'd recovered. He went off down to the clinic in Milan, and they said he'd be fit to ride. But when he started to breathe heavily, he found the pain was just too much for him. So Ugramov was decided that he wouldn't ride the race, and that was him out of the field. Actually, Ugramov now, I suppose, well, could well be like many other mountain climbers, looking forward to the finish of the season when we go really to October and the World Championship. I say finish the season. At one time the World Championship used to be around the back end of August. Now they're going into October. So the ones who perhaps had the misfortune not to go well in some of the tours might well be looking to recover and have a go at the Colombia, where the World Championship is being held. Well, it's very, very hilly indeed, and many of these riders who can climb mountains will be looking for a chance of getting a victory there. One man also didn't ride the Tour de France this year, but I think it was because he's just found he'd done a bit too much for him, was Edwin van Hooijdonk, and we understand that in fact he's now going to a new team that Hilaire van Schuren. Van der Schuren is the deputy director of the Nobel team, and Hilaire van der Schuren has managed to put together a budget of about 10 million francs to take on about 12 riders and put a new team into the racing scene next year. It'll be a Belgian racing team in 1996. We'll see another Belgian team on the start list, and it's likely to include Edwin van Hooijdonk, who didn't start in the Tour this year. Well, I told you it thins down a bit later on this climb, and the roads they're on somewhat better than when in 1952, when Coppi went over this climb and went on to win the stage into the Alpe d'Huez. That year that Fausto Coppi won that stage into the Alpe d'Huez, he actually finished in Paris 28 minutes and 17 seconds over the second place man. Just think of that, 28 minutes and 17 seconds. So many people are saying, oh, the race is over now with Indurain dominating it so hard because he's now on general classification 2 minutes and 27 seconds up. You see the crowd here waiting for those giants of the road. That Superdine truck down there, the yellow one, the other people that look after the medical problems with the riders, Dr. Port travelling in an open car behind the race, goes up and tends to any problems. They say get knee trouble or they've fallen off. He wants to have a look to make sure they're okay. And that yellowish van stuck down there is the medical vehicle, and there you are, about 47.5 kilometers is the Col de Madeleine. What a rude awakening for the day. Ah, what a lovely, isn't that gorgeous? That just gives you a sort of idea of there are those clouds on the top of the Alps, this rugged beauty here. Last night, the whole of it, though, was disturbed by the thunder and the lightning and the black clouds that came down. You see the snow there, and it's melting in certain parts where the sun gets it and comes down across the road. And I did stop myself and just go across and touch it, and it's very, very hard indeed, the snow that's kept away from the sunshine nestling in the mountains. And of course, we're not far from Mont Blanc, around about 40 kilometers or so from Mont Blanc on this range of Alps, which have been the scene of so much hard cycling over the years. I watched a lot of cyclists going up these rides, and a great change from when I first came on the Tour de France, when you get what you call just the cycling experts, the drop handlebarred racing or ex-racing lads, because now we get the mountain bikers out. The mountain biking is that the low gears they put on them, and this part of the world is great for mountain biking, and I see lots and lots of people out on their mountain bikes, and they've got a triple chain ring, so the inside ring with about 22 or 24 teeth on it, driving back to a back chain ring, then up to around about 28 teeth at the back. You get even less than direct drive, so you can get a very, very low gear indeed to pedal up the hills, and that means that you can it's better to sit in the saddle, and of course you're going off-road too, the rugged conditions, you can sit there and twiddle along on the rough stuff with the big fat tyres and the knobbly tyres. They've got a sort of 21 gears to help you get up the hills. When you go down the other side, you can switch it to the outside ring and the small sprocket and get yourself down the hills rather quickly indeed. But do be careful of the rocks. If you think of getting a bike and not sure whether you like a mountain bike, the big thing about them, of course, is you sit in a much more upright position. You've got your hands on the handlebars and with the flat position as such, and you can also change the gears with your thumb and your forefinger, because they've got gear systems, click index systems, that is very simple to use. In fact, some of them now got an indicator on, so you can see what gear you're in just looking down at it. Though I don't like the indicators myself, I'm rather inclined to think if you look down at the indicator when you click it, you could be not looking at the road ahead. There's also a new system, Grip Shift, who've got one where it's a bit like the old twist grip. You slide your hand along and you can click it round, and that will change the gears for you, click, click, click as well. And if you're not certain as to whether you want to buy a mountain bike yet, you can always come out to a place like this, and you'll find that up in the ski resort area, they're hiring bikes out. And so one thing you can do to try and see if you like mountain biking is actually to hire one for the day. But bear in mind, if you haven't ridden a bike for an awful long time, your bum might get a bit sore, because even though the saddles are more commodious than the narrow racing saddles, which were the rigor for the racing cyclists over the years, the somewhat wider saddle, if you're not used to cycling, might make it feel a bit sore. But don't do too many miles the first day. Just take it easy, and if it gets a bit too hilly, just get up and walk and then get back on the bike again, and just gently ease yourself into it. There's so many people who've gone back to mountain biking and cycling through the use of mountain bikes, because they like to get out and off the beaten track. And the big thing now, which you didn't used to see many years ago as well, is that the cars have got racks on the top with the bikes, or racks on the back, and so many of the major bicycle shops in the UK and of course across Europe now are selling racks to stick your bike on. Be careful if you do that, you don't cover the old number plate up. A lot of people stick these racks on and cover the number plate up, and the law back in England don't really like that, so do be careful that you don't find yourself with your collar being felt. But get out your bike, enjoy yourself. And of course what's also happening back in Great Britain, more and more of the railway tracks and canal paths are being created for people to ride bikes along, and there again a mountain bike, even though it's flat, it's a nice big comfy thing. It's got great big fat tyres on it. But whatever you do though, don't let the tyres get too soft. So you'll find on the side of the tyres that it actually shows what pressure should be used, and you can go to a garage and just check, just blow them up, because they all have these sort of shrouder valves, and make sure that you keep your tyres at the right pressure, because nothing worse than having sluggish tyres, and that makes cycling all the harder. The red vehicles you just saw going through there, by the way, those are the commissaires. They're the officials of the race, and they're ahead of the race right now. So if it splits, they can drop in behind the splits, because you can't really come up past all the vehicles, or certainly on the descent you can't get past the vehicles and past the riders. So the beautiful view back down for the Alps here, which very much the crossroads of Europe, and the riders climbing up then through the greenery here with the cowbells tinkling and the perfume wildflowers on either side of the road. But they've got this big climb up the top of the Col de Madeleine. The crowd then waiting for the news of the riders on the climb. These people here, by the way, many have been camping out overnight, and if you see a chap with his radio here, be able to pick up the information what's happening out along the course, and some will have their own little portable television sets as well, because this program is being broadcast for some 5 hours now, live on television, and the people on the side of the road who come out to get themselves a good vantage point, maybe just on holiday or watching the bike racing, can await the arrival of the riders and can listen to the information about what's going on as it comes in on their radio sets. And then, of course, when it goes through, they can cheer the riders, and after that they can sit back and listen, because it's an awful long time to get down the mountains when you finish. There's so many people. Some still trying to get up, some still trying to get down. You get an almighty traffic jam, and the best thing to do, I've found, is just sit on the side of the road, have yourself something to eat, put your feet up, and then go when the traffic is cleared. So the Col de Madeleine, the climb they're going over now, the last time we went over, Ugramov got that victory in 1994, and before that Clavriola in 1990, and the field not at the moment under any pressure. Looks like Indurain has moved to the front of this little lot to try and make sure that nobody puts the hammer down. I think, what is it, looking back there through the yellow jersey? Nope, he's not there at the moment. I think he's going to keep a very watchful eye on the main protagonist today, and Zuller. I wonder if he's got anything left after his tremendous ride yesterday, to see if he can try and pull back even more that time that he regained quite a bit yesterday, but he's still on general classification at the moment. Zuller 2 minutes and 27 seconds down on Indurain. Rees 5 minutes 58 down. So yes, I suppose the lid has gone on the race as far as it's concerned between now and the finish. But I remember my good producer when I was back in when we were operating out of London, and Annette said to me, "Look, David, don't throw it away. Something can happen." But that was particularly the year when going into the finish in Paris, and Laurent Fignon had a 50-second lead, and it was only about a 21-kilometre time trial from Versailles into Paris, dead flat, and Le Mans at 50 seconds. There seemed to be no way. Says I tapped in the side of my nose, knowing a bit about cycling, and so I thought that Fignon in his own hometown was going to lose those 50 seconds to Le Mans. Well, as you all know, history was created because he used his tri-bars. He had his little crash out on Diamond, and he just rode like a man possessed, and he dispossessed Fignon by 8 seconds. And so all that my good producer friend Annette said to me there, "Don't throw it away, David, it's not over yet," was perfectly right. And even though that gap for Indurain, 2:27 to Zuller and 5:58 to Rees and 6:35 to Rominger, doesn't mean to say it's over by any means, because after this climb, this hilly day in the Alps, we've still got a couple of days in the Pyrenees as well, and we know that time can be lost and gained, and particularly like yesterday, Berzin losing 17 minutes and 47 seconds on Indurain, and 15 minutes or so on 15 minutes on Indurain, and 17 minutes now back. It just shows you how much time you can lose in the mountains, and anything can still happen. Armstrong in the centre of this lot had a bad time yesterday. See the Benesto jerseys at the front. Good team tactics. I was saying earlier on about the fact that when Fausto Coppi won the stage of the Alpe d'Huez and he finished at 28 minutes advance into Paris, those are the days when riders like Coppi and Bartali would be able to go away and just open up enormous gaps, and they'd ride virtually 2/3 of the stage on their own. The Zuller did yesterday. So what we saw yesterday, the 100-kilometre lone break of Zuller, was the tactics we used to see many years ago. Not so much control as you're getting now. See the Benestos at the front trying to keep the lid on things, and many of the riders don't want either to take the risk of going away. They'll just sit there tactically, and races then are won with far less of a gap than used to be the case many years ago. And the coppers of this world had had that gift, that ability to ride off the front and just leave the rest gasping in their wakes. And of course, another man that used to be able to do that was Eddie Merckx, and Eddie was capable of knocking the stopping out of people. In fact, in 1969 he won the Tour de France by 17 minutes and 54 seconds. And looking back over the results over the years, then certainly Eddie's performance is one of the best since the war in terms of the deficit to the second place man. Bartali in 1948 won the Tour de France by 26 minutes and 16 seconds from Brickshot. Coblet, again a great climber in those days, 1950. 90.51. Cobley from Switzerland won by 22 minutes from Geminiani in 90.51. 52 Coppy, 28 minutes and 27 seconds. And then we had to go all the way to Merckx in 1969. When he did it in 17 minutes and 54. So those are some of the biggest lumps we've had the race won by, and in recent years it's become much more closer. Delgado, when he beat Stephen Brooks in 1988, was 7 minutes 13 seconds, and 8 seconds with Le Mans Fignon in 89. Le Mans Chiappucci 2 minutes 17 seconds in 1990, and then we had this reign of Indurain's reign. In 91, 3 minutes 36 he won by, 92, 4 minutes 35, 93, 4 minutes 59, and 94, 5 minutes 39. So he's been quite consistent about that, although growing a little bit more every time. They're just showing 131 kilometres left to go in the race. So he's accelerating all the time, Indurain, just exceeding the Huez gap before each time as he's gone a bit quicker. Well, at the moment he's only got 2 minutes 27 on Zuller, and his distance van der Aarden, previous green jersey in the Tour de France, has now got himself shot off the back. Alec van der Aarden, who took the green jersey in 1986, he got really a rough old ride yesterday. He's one of those chaps who got blasted out the back and came in way down. I haven't spoken about Yates by this. Sean didn't have too much of a good day either. He came in 75th spot in 32 minutes and 57 seconds. He rode in with Frankie Andrew, also the Motorola team, and Andrea Perron. They all came in more or less together. They were at the bottom of the climb together. Perron just accelerated a bit more than the rest. He came in 31 minutes and 5 seconds down on Zuller. Frankie Andrew in 74th spot, 32 minutes and 54 down. Sean Yates in 75th spot, 32 minutes and 57 seconds. So Sean not perhaps having the tour as good as he'd hoped he would want, because when we got the yellow jersey last year, but having to work for his teammates, and disappointing, I think, that one of his teammates, Armstrong, hasn't really fired on all cylinders yet. Only Mejia, who's now 16th overall from the Motorola team, 15.37 down, is their best placed man. Sean Yates overall in general classification is 109th, 1 hour, 1 minute and 50 seconds in arrears. Steve Bauer is in 108th place, 1 hour, 1 minute and 37 seconds down. Other English-speaking riders in 102nd place, Frankie Andrew, 1 hour and 8 minutes down. Neil Stevens, the gutsy Australian, who rides hard for the on-site team, has done a tremendous job in helping keep Jalabert in the green jersey, and of course defends Zuller's position as well. Neil Stevens is 85th, 53 minutes and 50 minutes and 39 seconds down. Also on the other side of the world, I shouldn't mention this country really, because they play a rather hard game of rugby. New Zealand, Stephen Swart, 129th at 1 hour, 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Lee Stevens still in this one. First time he rode the Tour de France, what was way back about 1987, when the ANC Halfords team rode, and he only lasted about 8 days and retired through sickness. So he's still there at the moment and hanging on in, and much more rounded rider than he used to be. The other English-speaking rider which we've got, he's the best placed English-speaking rider at the moment. I mean, a lot of them do speak English, but he's got Great Britain after his name. That's Maximiliano Sciandi. It's a lovely English name, isn't it? Well, he's 55th, and the fellow born in Derby is our great white hope to stay in the top 50 or so. Well, let me run down some of the general classification. It should be all you non-cyclists listening to all this rabbit about who, where and what's happening there, because you're interested just in the overall activity of the Tour de France. Well, I'll nip down very quickly, because I know the papers back in Great Britain don't give all the information about riders that you may be interested in. I'll just recap then on the top 10. Indurain first, Zuller second, Rees third, Rominger fourth, Gotti fifth, Jalabert sixth, Mauri seventh, Tonkov 8th, Chiappucci 9th, and Escartin in 10th spot. And Escartin in 10th spot is some 13 minutes and 6 seconds down on Indurain. Further down the list, Tadej Berzin, 21st overall, 17 minutes and 47 seconds down. Zenon Zaskula, 22nd overall, 18 minutes and 16 down. Jan Brunel, who had that yellow jersey in Liège, 23rd at 18 minutes and 25. Lance Armstrong, 36th at 28 minutes and 19. Gentleman Abdul Jafarov, he with an unpronounceable surname, an unpronounceable Christian name, and one in between the two that I can't pronounce, but Alan Pipe, my good friend, can. He is 45th. at 36 minutes and 18 seconds. Mauricio Fondres, I know, got great support back in Great Britain. He's 52nd overall, 39.26. Fortunately, still soldiering on. He managed to stay with the race so far. He's had a lot of back trouble last year, and then looks like he was a bit slow hitting form after his Milan San Remo second place. He was managed to get into the pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia, but I think somehow he's finding these 3-week stage races a little bit tough for him. But winner of the Kellogg's Pro Tour in Great Britain, Mauricio Fondres, 52nd overall, 39 minutes and 26 seconds down. A bit of a disaster, by the way, for the champion of Italy, Gianni Bugno, who wouldn't ride the Tour of Italy this year. He had a few problems last year, money problems and family problems, and had a rather bad year. And when he started to ride this year for the MG team, switching his teams, he said he wanted to concentrate on the Tour de France. Well, his concentration seems to have slipped a bit. He's Heinz at the moment. He's 57. He's a 57th Ferrari. He's down there at 41 minutes and 25 seconds in arrears, and just one place ahead of Armand de las Cuevas, who is at 41 minutes and 30 seconds. Armand de las Cuevas also a man who came in that biggish group yesterday, and I'm just wondering if missing so much training has had an effect on it, because Armand de las Cuevas on what was it, early in May had a bad crash, and he went into the Tour of Italy with a cracked collarbone, and he rode the Tour of Italy for about the first 3 or 4 days, and then decided the pain was too much, and Armand de las Cuevas came out of it, and that's probably affected his tour this year, because he's way back there in 58th place. Mario Cipollini had survived into 64th spot, but he's gone home now to play with his Ferrari motor car and put his feet up and get some sunshine, I suppose. He's had 16 victories so far this year, so to come out of the Tour de France at this stage is no great problem to him. His sponsor's got a lot of publicity out of it. Of course, there's no sense for Mario Cipollini to absolutely wreck himself on a stage like we've got today, with 3 Hall category climbs, including the one at the finish at the Alpe d'Huez. Dmitry Konishev from the Russian team, the Akirada, he's back in 81st spot, 52.12 down. And so those are the top riders in the top 80 place. Oh, little Francesco Frattini, who won the Henniger Turm, the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, is 83rd overall at the moment, 53 minutes and 19 seconds down. Andre Chamil, 95th, the winner of the Paris-Roubaix last year, 57 minutes and 31 seconds down. Hell of a difference between batching yourself to death with one day of the cobbles of northern France and surviving 3 weeks of hard thrashing on your bicycle round the Tour de France, which has now covered 1,850 kilometers. So 1,585. If they covered 1,600, like in fact they've now done it, then that's exactly, let's see, divide by 8 and multiply by 2. It's exactly 1,000 miles have been covered so far. So they've ridden 1,000 miles in the race. And we've got a long way still to go, about another 1,200 miles. So we're not at the halfway point yet. All say ah. I can see some chaps here will be finding it a bit tough. Hello, is that Cassani on the left-hand side nipping away? He's the sort of fellow who's likely to do a bit of a ride, perhaps. No, he swung out the other way. I wonder what caused him to jump around a bit like that. Let's have another look, Mr. Cameraman. And where's he gone to? No, he's gone back in again. So Castane's just romped around the front of that little lot and disappeared back into the main pack. So 1,000 miles have been covered now, and 42.49 kilometers per hour is the time that they've averaged so far. And I say yesterday, the average speed of that stage, a massive 21 miles an hour for a course as tough as that one. If you're wondering where I've gone to then, I was working out the average speed. Oh, a bit of relief for all you, I suppose, back at home. I'm listening to my rabbit at the moment. The average speed, 26.5 miles an hour. So they've done 1,000 miles and they've averaged 26.5 miles an hour. Any of you that are driving a motor car know that you go on a journey and say lets you average 40 miles an hour. There are times when you're belting on at 70, and there are times when you're down to sort of 25, 30. So you just imagine that. If you're going to average 26.5 miles an hour, you've got to be travelling on the road at somewhere constantly around about 30 miles an hour, because on little climbs like they're doing here, when they're dropping down to maybe 12, 15 miles an hour, you've got to, when you go over the top, descend very quickly, and on the flat part also go at a great rate of knots. So that's the average speed so far. 26.5 kilometres per hour is the average for the race so far. It's not 26.5 miles an hour, and it's 42.49 kilometres per hour is the overall average. It'll slow down a bit as time goes on, because they're going to get more and more tired. And they're going to also, with the 2 days in the Pyrenees, are going to find themselves, I think, a little bit struggling to maintain this sort of speed. And I think one man has been missing out the Pyrenees, would love to have been there. Robert Miller. Robert, if you're listening to our programmes at all, sorry you couldn't be here. And perhaps we might have you on Eurosport at some time to give us the benefit of your experience in the mountains like here, because Robert, the great mountain climber, has won stages in the Tour de France, in the Pyrenees, and I hope one day we can get him to join us. I said before that we might have Robert Miller alongside Stephen Roche and myself, so we've got the Englishman, the Irishman and the Scotsman. I suppose the whole lot will be absolutely unintelligible to most people. Stephen, by the way, is out on the route. He said he'd have a look at some of the riders today at the start, and would work his way through and see some of the racing and come in later on. So he's left me to man the fort for the best part of 5 hours, so I hope he can put up with me for the most part of that until he turns up with some words of wisdom of this particular course of the race. But you can see at the moment nothing fearsome going on. I don't blame these chaps for potting along towards the finish at the Alpe d'Huez, which, as I say, we first used way back in 1952. Still the Bressos on the front, the Nobel riders sat in the middle, Castorama on the right-hand side, Simon it is, who's decided to show that he can still be up there in the mountains, and he's so far back on the King of the Mountains points at the moment that I don't think he's really got much chance of challenging the victor, or the leader, Veronk, on the King of the Mountains at the moment. Now, I think a little look at the scenery, aren't they? I'll just flick over my notes here and let me tell you how the King of the Mountains is going on at the moment. In the mountain climbing section, sponsored by Champion, which is a big supermarket group in France, Richard Veronk is in the lead with 111 points. Alex Zuller moved up into second place with 102 points, so he's only 9 points adrift now of Richard Veronk. Miguel Indurain, by virtue of that tremendous ride into second place yesterday on the climb up towards the finish at La Plagne, has got 77 points. Bo Hamburger, the Danish rider, who staged Victor last year in the Tour, is in fourth spot at 59 seconds, and 59 points. So they're the top four in the classification. Tonko, who did a great ride yesterday, has moved up into 8th on the King of the Mountains. He's at 30. He's got 32 points, just 1 point behind Tony Rominger, who's lying 7th. Another man who's had the King of the Mountains jersey in the Tour de France in the past, Claudio Chiappucci, is 9th in the mountain climbing competition with just 31 points. And Francois Simon, who we've been seeing up near the frontier for the Castorama team, who had the polka dot jersey earlier on, he's 13th at the moment, unlucky for some, and he's got 26 points, but the gap then is enormous, as you can see. Veronk, leader, 111 points. Zuller, second, 102 points. Miguel Indurain in third spot at 77 points. That's the King of the Mountains competition. The general position I've given you overall, the position on the points competition I gave you back down the road when they had the first sprint, but he's just come in for lunch. The first sprint we had of the day was won by Abdul Jafarov from Jalabert and Fanini in that order. So Abdul Jafarov beginning to ease himself closer to Laurent Jalabert, who leads on the points competition with 171 points. Abdul Jafarov is second with 157, and Mario Cipollini, who's now retired from the race, had 108 points, but that's put him out of contention, and he can go back and watch it on telly, I suppose. Nice looking look back at the riders on these hairpin bends, and the gendarme going through. Tremendous the police control of this race. They've had the policemen out standing on the side of the road 5 hours before the race comes through. They're out there marshalling their little points, and of course they have to take their sarnies with them and their little flask of tea or coffee or what it is to stand the day. And also sensible chaps, that you've got to take yourself a variety of clothing, because the weather forecast today, they started this morning at 24 degrees, it said, but it's going to be dropping to 14 degrees at the top of the climb of the Col de Madeleine. It should be 26 when they drop down the valley the other side, 15 by the time they go up the Croix de Fer, and then up here at the Alpe d'Huez, back to 16 degrees, and it's forecast that it's going to rain. Oh dear, dear, dear. I've left my umbrella in the car. It's dark, cloudy, and it could drop to 12 degrees when the wet stuff comes down. So we're going to might well have a night like last night, although some I doubted. The nice little cotton wool clouds are still hanging over the top of those rugged granite mountains in the background, and they don't look too oppressive at the moment. We've still got a long way to go yet. 126 kilometres in all for these riders, and it's what, 20 past 1 in Central European time, and they're due to finish at an average speed of 32 kilometres an hour, 15 miles an hour, at 8 minutes past 5. So still a long way to go. And then on the left-hand side, a little look at Veronk. Haven't seen much of him so far. I said yesterday he complained he couldn't breathe too much. He was suffering a bit from bronchitis. And I wondered too if the antibiotics that Tony Rominger has been having to cure his heavy cold, which took him out of the Tour of Switzerland, might have dampened his form a little bit. It takes riders often a long time to shake off the antibiotic, but it's the quickest way to try and cure a problem if you've got an infection from a cold. And Tony went down when his wife and his children also had heavy colds, and he contacted as well. And that meant that he's been struggling to find his form since he won the Tour of Italy. And on the front there for the Gavis team, we've got the big burly figure himself who's gone up there, Guido Bontempi. Another of these big men who likes to ride away on the front, riding on his Bianchi bicycle. Bianchi, by the way, it's their 110th anniversary this year. They've been making bikes for 110 years. I can't quite work out whether Bianchi is older in terms of making bikes than the Rally. Which is the oldest company, Rally or Bianchi? I know both of them were founded around about the same time, and both of them still very heavily into the bicycle business, when so many names have fallen by the wayside through the trials and tribulations of the bicycle industry. The mergers have gone on, and the many famous names being swallowed up by bigger companies. And Bianchi remained their independence. Rally, of course, part of the TI group some years ago, went on a buying spree. TI bought Rally, and then Rally had the muscle from TI's backing to go and buy up more bicycle companies, and many of the names have disappeared from the scene. But Bianchi's always kept itself very independent and hasn't had a galaxy of other brands to play with in the marketplace. It's managed to stay unique, and also the unique colour of their bikes, the sort of colour that Bontempi is riding on, sort of eggshelly blue, which has been the Bianchi colour. They've slightly changed the hue, but only very slightly now, to that which was used by Fausto Coppi, who used to ride for Bianchi and who won this stage way back in 1952. Because although they look and see the standard diamond frame, Bianchi have moved, like with everybody else, from just making them out of steel, although lots of riders still prefer the steel bikes, to using now titanium and aluminium, and using TIG welding rather than having lugs. Anything to save weight. On a day like today, many of these riders will have taken out their very lightweight bicycles, which they will use on a stage like this, but when you get onto the flatter, faster stage with potholes and bad road surfaces, they don't like using their very lightweight wheels and very lightweight bikes, because they get a hell of a battering, and so they have a somewhat heavier machine. And in fact, the Peugeot bicycle suppliers to the Festina team offered everybody in the team 3 bicycles. They had one made of steel, they had one made of carbon fibre, and they had one made out of aluminium. So they all had 3 bikes to play around with, and they could ride which was going to be the most suitable one they wanted for each of the terrains they were going to ride over. So imagine the tremendous cost of running a racing team when you've got something like between 15 and 20 riders in the team, and many of the companies preferring to buy their bicycles, although some get them given to them by manufacturers, the publicity they get from the people riding on the bikes. Now you see that these cables thing in the background. We're going to shortly move up to the areas where they've got the cable cars and the ski lifts that carry the people right up into the mountains. And we're in this little place now of Cellier. I'm looking on my list here. Yes, it's 37 kilometres have been covered so far, 125 kilometres yet to go. And now the Col de Madeleine is after 47.5 kilometres. They've got 10 kilometres to go now to the top of the climb. There are, just as I say it, the man presses a button. Up on our graphics come the little numbers up there for you on this, the 10th stage of the tour. So we haven't shaken the bottle and the cork hasn't flown yet. They're riding up here at a constant pace, with the Venesto is just sitting on the front here. On the right hand side Cassani, left hand side Bontempi. So the Italians just controlling things a little bit at the moment. picking out some of the local scenery, and these traditional sort of houses you get in the Alps with the balconies facing the sun. Of course, those are more modern ones you're looking at now, but many years gone by, the style that developed here was so they could have a house with a balcony, so in the summer they could sit in the sunshine and warm their bodies, and in the winter they'd use the balconies very often for storing wood. So the overhang of the house with the balcony below, the wood could keep dry, and you could take it into the house for firewood during the winter. And also the flat roofs you see here, that's done deliberately too, so that when it snows in the winter, then it means that the snow rests on top of the house, and that gives it some warmth. So it's done for a very particular reason, this style of architecture, so that the people inside can keep warm during the winter. Very, very cold nights, of course, when the snow comes down. And the traditional style, which was designed and developed many years ago by the people who lived up here, lived off the land long before it became a holiday resort area and people could make money out of the skiers. That was traditional form of building of houses in the Alps, because that was all they needed really, is warmth in the summer and the winter, and a place to store their grain. And also they'd have the animals inside the building. Some of them you'll find when you go past, you'll see a great big door inside the house as well. Even the animals would go in there as well, so that the heat of the animals would keep the people warm. I'm going back a long time now, but that's developed the same style of building ever long since then. And they keep not only animals in this big store, but also grain for the staple Alpine dart, which is big discs of dark bread, and also keeping their cheeses and hams for the dark long nights of the winter. We saw that lovely church back there. Well, very often the houses ever were always built up around the church, but what they had to do in this neck of the woods, of course, is to make sure that you either stay down the valley floor away from the regular avalanche paths, or you make yourself, you build your house, you also have a house where there's no way the avalanches come down. It's something that still happens, and the avalanches, which are very frequent in the winter, can of course cause all sorts of troubles if it comes down and collapses on your house. We were having a little chat yesterday, Stephen Roche and myself, about that avalanche in the Tour of Italy, which I was absolutely amazed when we saw the cameras, because the cameras that you're going to see picking up the pictures further on in the program are right up on the top, and they go out, here we are, that's one of our fixed cameras at the top. They go out the day before and get themselves all sat up there, ready to transmit the pictures off their satellite dishes, bounce them up in the sky into an aeroplane, and then they bounce it over to the scanner, as we call it, at the finish. And so you can actually get pictures like this. Well, on the Tour of Italy, the cameras that were up there, they were actually showing us shots like this, but it was just white. The snow had come down overnight, and there had already been some of that snow you see in the background had been held against the edge of the road, and it hadn't melted sufficiently. And then as it just began to thaw a bit, it had about 3 avalanches across the route of the race, and they had to bring out the mountain rescue people. The snow buried a Swiss journalist car. They trapped the people inside it. About a dozen people got themselves caught in these minor avalanches and got pressed against vehicles. And in fact, one of them, I understand, got a slight injury when the car in which Stephen Roche was travelling in, because he was one of the commentators for the Italian television company, it had to reverse quickly to miss an avalanche. And as it reversed quickly, people were running and trying to get away in the snow on either side of them, and the back wheels just bumped into somebody. I think fortunately without any great danger, but that was true. Just imagine what it would have been like if a group of riders like we see here had been allowed that day to go over, because the sun was shining like it is now further down the valley, but up the top, Volters and Durand have been blasted out. Poor old Jackie Durand, who had a bad day yesterday, wore the yellow jersey for a couple of days, having got that prologue time trial, is now struggling at the back. Twice champion of France, winner of the Tour of Flanders, is now finding himself under a bit of pressure. I was saying, imagine if an avalanche came down. It won't on this road, by the way, because there isn't enough snow at any point here to slip down, but if an avalanche did come and it had taken some of the riders with it, particularly as they would be clothed more or less like they are now, spectators that were caught in the avalanche had gone up there with plenty of warm clothing, and therefore they didn't have any major problems, and they had the sniffer for dogs out, and they had the long sticks they put down. We saw it all on television. But imagine what it'd been like if some of these riders had taken with an avalanche. Fortunately, they stopped the race at one of the intermediate sprints on the way up the mountain, and that was that on the Tour of Italy, which had been moved 1 week earlier in the year. So one can say, well, if you have a race that much earlier in the year, then one shouldn't go with such big mountain passes as we're looking now, because the conditions can change so rapidly, and those are the problems. They came over out of Italy, across the Alps, much further north from here, and then over into Switzerland to Laserheide, and then went back over the Alps and so on. So the Tour of Italy went through some territory where the snow hadn't had sufficient time to be shifted off the road. But no problems today. You can see up here at the top of the Col de Madeleine that the snow is all gone, except that little lot up the top. That won't come thundering down. I suppose it's been there since the Ice Age, really. Some of that snow that just clings to the mountainside, that the sun never gets on it, and therefore none of that's likely to come sliding down. At least I hope not. It didn't look like it when I went past on this route earlier on, having a look at the road. Still on the left-hand side, the big fellow Bontempi for the Gavis team, who must be wondering what card they've got to play now with that rider from the Gavis team, Berzin, distance so far back from the overall leader, Miguel Indurain. It looks like they're going to take this one as a little bit of a sprint, I suppose, just to have a go right towards the back end of it. So we might see Mr. Claudio Chiappucci, but suit him, I think, if it was a bit chunkier than this one. And you see, as they're going up now, that the trees are beginning to get stunted and smaller. Down the valley, it's been quite wooded, but now the sparse grass, the special alpine type flowers that can withstand the hard winters, and it's getting much more Spartan. And then later on they get amongst the rocks at the top, and the sun beating down, and the crowd alongside both sides of the road again applauding their giants of the road. Very happy to see them go through here. Whether they're going flat out or whether they're going up like they are here, still the people will applaud the efforts. There the mountain peaks, much beloved by mountain climbers, walkers and skiers, and of course racing cyclists. I suppose it must be a love-hate relationship as far as they're concerned, because this is a place where the race can be won and lost. And in many years in the past, the mountains have enabled people like Van Impe, who's a tremendous mountain climber, to win the Tour de France. And the chances now of a pure mountain climber winning the Tour de France seem to be lessened since we've had the time trial become so important. But I think what Indurain showed us yesterday was that he can also climb. For the first time in all the years I watched Miguel Indurain, I got the feeling suddenly he was a mountain climber. Although again he's a fellow around like 6'2", who has to drag his big heavy frame up the climbs, his whole ability with his enormous big lungs, he's got a bigger heart, bigger lungs and bigger recovery rate than just about anybody else. If I said he's a freak, please don't get me wrong, but all the medical tests they've done on him have shown that he's quite a unique human being, and therefore is a natural when it comes to bike racing. Because what he doesn't do as well, he's very sensible. He tapers his season around the Tour de France and doesn't attempt to ride a very hard season, so he can just preserve his strength and come into a race like this determined to win this particular one. In years gone by, riders who didn't get very big contracts had to race all the time, and they raced for the money when they were actually out on their bikes, because they got a small contract from usually a bicycle manufacturer, and some chaps only rode virtually for a jersey, a bike and expenses. They didn't get much money, so they had to race for the money, and that meant they had to ride every event that was going and ride every event flat out to try and earn the money. I'm going back sort of just after the war and just before the war as well, that when things like that apply. But now, today, with so much sponsorship going on, I think it's probably right, therefore, that the riders can adjust their season to suit their specialities. And the Italian teams now, very often, they have like two groups of riders. One lot of riders will keep themselves fit for the winter and race every race at the beginning part of the season absolutely flat out, and then they will have a rest. Jalabert did virtually the same thing. He trained like crazy crazy through the winter, and then came in and won the Paris-Nice amongst many other races in the early part of the year, and they had a 5-week rest and has come back now to race at this. Oh, not surprised. Eric van der Aarden then has now called it a day, and that is a disappointment, I think, for Eric. He would not have willingly packed it in, because I know Eric's a very gutsy rider. In fact, he was yesterday came in way off the back. I'll have a little look just a moment where he finished yesterday, Eric, but to imagine struggling yesterday, still coming back in today. Yes, he finished 152nd yesterday, 43 minutes and 52 seconds down, and as Steve and I were saying earlier on during the race, I thought Eric was looking much faster this year. He's already won a stage in a race a few weeks ago, and he did all he could to try and win a stage here in the Tour, but he's had a rough time, and he'll go back. I think to some extent when you retire from a race like this, there's a moment of relief that the pain, the suffering, the sheer physical hurt of it, because it gets into your bones. I mean, look at these chaps now riding. Everyone, when they start their morning, they're in pain somehow. When they finished last night, they were really in pain, and they come back again, and there's a love-hate relationship with it, I think, saying, look, I'll ride this thing and I'll do what I can to survive the course, but really to retire from the race is maybe a moment of I would say sheer joy, when you think, oh, I've got off my bike, the pain's gone, but then you look back and think, perhaps I could have ridden a bit harder, perhaps I could have stayed in a bit more, perhaps, and it's always perhaps. Once you've said, that's it, I'm climbing off my bike, then you're back in the team wagon, or in the broom wagon as they call it. It's called the broom wagon at the back because that's the one that sweeps up the riders afterwards, and I haven't yet had a chance of looking at the following wagon in the Tour de France to see whether it's got a broom attached to it, but certainly in other races I've been in, things like the Milk Race, the Kellogg's Pro Tour and the Tour of Ireland, there's been a broom on top to sweep up the riders. Everybody knows as it goes past, that is the last rider in the race. Well, that broom wagon now, having collected Eric van der Aarden, who was winning stages in the Tour de France way back in 1985 and taking the green jersey as well. He's won stages in things like the Tour of Spain. He's also been a past winner of the Paris-Roubaix. I tell you, the man with enormous guts and courage, so he wouldn't really very quickly jump off his bike unless it was absolutely forced upon him. So that's goodbye then to Eric van der Aarden. The field is slimming down quite considerably. We've also lost today Cipollini, so there's only about 150 riders left in the Tour de France on this stage 10. The field still grouped together on this stage 10 of the Tour de France, heading up the climb of the Col de la Madeleine, 2,000 metres above sea level. As yet, no fierce attempt for anybody to break this lot up, and the tail end of this group managing to stay with the pace at the moment, drifting up here probably around about 15 miles an hour, 12-15 miles an hour, riding, and probably thankfully that no mountain goat has decided to put the hammer down. This actual climb, this one is a very long, gradual climb. The next one, the Col de la Croix-de-Fer, has got much more vicious hooks on it, and it does go up a little steeper somewhat. The average percent on the Col de Madeleine, which is 25.3 kilometres long, that's just on 15 miles of climbing, is 6.2%. The next one, the Col de la Croix-de-Fer, is a 5.5% climb, and the final one up the Alpe d'Huez is an 8.3%. And the Alpe d'Huez really is the final blow, the hammer that's going to hit a few of these chaps today, because that climb with its 21 hairpin bends is an 8.5 mile climb, and you can lose something like about 40 minutes between the bottom and the top if you're really taking an awful pasting. Well, that's probably going to be about the time limit for the race again today. Yesterday the cut-off point for the riders was set at just on 45 minutes, and we knocked out 10 riders yesterday Italy, who finished outside the time limit, so they're packing their bags and on their way home now. There isn't any racing going on whilst they're there. Well, there are some races, of course, but riders aren't allowed just to retire from the Tour and go off and race somewhere else without special dispensation as such. Just to stop people riding the first week or so, then hammering off to try and get themselves some places elsewhere. So there isn't really any great racing going on whilst the Tour de France is in progress. So you've got to go off and train and ride around on your bike. In fact, we passed a couple of the Groupement riders the other day when they were out training because their sponsor now has failed to pay their wages, and so they're virtually unemployed, although the legal acts are going on. And in fact, the team manager is trying at the moment to put the whole team, or at least put a team of riders, into the Tour of Spain. He actually drove down. He hadn't got the money to go by aeroplane. He drove for 24 hours down to Madrid to go meet the organisers of the Tour of Spain and said, look, I'm going to try and get some money together to put my team, because it's his team, into the Tour of Spain. Please, will you give me at least the opportunity? And now he's searching around. I think he needs about £200,000 or something just to put the team into the Tour of Spain, because that you've got to sort of part pay riders' salaries for the 3 weeks. You've got a lot of expenses in travelling as well, hotels and what have you. So if anyone's got £200,000 to spare and feeling a bit benevolent to poor old gang of bike riders, including our good friend Robert Miller, then you better contact the team manager of the Groupement squad. Well, I'm not quite sure the legality of that, though, because I suppose that once the Groupement have said they've severed the contract and they've stopped it, then they must be free to do something else. And half the problem's been that the riders have been trying to, or would hope to be picked up by other teams. But if you're running a racing team, you at this time of the year are finding yourself a bit short of money, because always in every bike racing team, in my experience over the years, we used to, in fact, when I was at the TR Rally team, we used to keep a little bit back, and we didn't even tell Peter Post, Paul Moran and I used to keep a little bit in reserve, you see. So every time we gave a budget, we had a little bit tucked away, because always, well, could we do this, or should we do that, or it'd be nice if we could ride X, Y. There, by the way, looking down there, we can see Sean Yates ploughing away, just back from the front of this little group. So Sean still in with the pack at the moment. The hammer hasn't gone down yet a while, but we used to keep a little bit back in the budget, but not enough to start buying lots more riders. And so suddenly the Groupement riders are unemployed at the moment, and it's not easy to find the sort of money to put them back on the road again. Drifting about in the top right-hand corner of the screen, the pink with the long flowing locks, Neil Stevens. And I'll just mention on television again something which I've spoken about sometime in the past, but many of you who perhaps switched on new, or this afternoon just finished hoovering the house out or finished your lunch and just wonder what's in the old TV. Neil created a bit of exposure. He made sparks fly. Many years ago when we had the Kellogg's Pro City Centre Racing, we were down in Cardiff, and it was a very wet day, and it got very dark, and they were hammering around the circuit, and Stephen had gone away with the bold Danny Clark, who was at that time riding for Halfords in the Kellogg series, and the two of them got away, the two Aussies together, and they went round this right-hander. It was near the main buildings, the Civic Hall, the museum and so on, just on the centre of Cardiff. They're not far from the castle, and we were using roads which I say not in wet, but they were covered with like zebra crossings and all sorts of other things. And of course, when you put paint on the road, it becomes very slippy. And Neil cranked his bike over and went down. And in the dark and the gloom, his pedal went along the road, and the sparks flew in all directions. Even though it was wet, it just sparks flew, and it became something that Channel 4 used in their programmes for the rest of that year as a sort of opener, pipe opener, with the sparks flying. Well, that's the fellow with the long flowing locks. That must have been about 6-7 years ago now, if not longer. So he's still in action, the Australian. In fact, Neil came across and was looking for a contract, and he was one of the first riders to join up with the ANC team. And Mickey Morrison was the first, because Mickey Morrison, who lived up in Stoke-on-Trent, a professional rider, he turned for the amateur ranks, and we knew not a lot of him as an amateur. He was quite a useful climber. Anyway, he was always after sponsoring the bold Mickey Morrison. He got ANC to sponsor him, and then they found a bit more money in the kitty, and he then had Neil Stevens as his teammate, and that's where the ANC team started. They went on to be the ANC Halfords team that rode in the Tour de France, and only Timmins and Malcolm Elliott finished that ride. Everyone was a bit shattered by the whole affair. Looking down there at Sean Yates in this group of riders, still happily with them, and happy, I think, that the pace today is not particularly vicious, because it's the day when many of these riders will be happy to stay with this one and perhaps wait for the launching of the attacks on the Col de Croix de Fer. A great sharp contrast to yesterday's racing, when we had a lot of fearsome activity very quickly indeed in the race, because Zuller went away and had 100 kilometres on his own, or with for a short period he had just one rider with him. But really, Zuller, you could say, he did most of the work on that stage yesterday, and that surprised a lot of people. So perhaps he, thankfully, is happily in there. See the team cars, and going back to team cars, that's the Once team car up near the front, just coming forward to the one of the back markers, who's probably gone off to get some refreshments. They have got the first feed coming up after they drop off the top of the Col de la Madeleine down into the valley below to the Sambre des Quines. Down there will be the first of the feeds, and that's they drop off the top of 2,000 metres and drop down to 480, so they go down virtually as much as they've climbed. It's about the same distance going down. They will be dropping down for some 20 kilometres, having gone up for some 23, so it's going to be up one side, down the others. You know, what goes up must come down, and the feed will be at some 69 kilometres of the race. So just inside the 50-mile point, about halfway in the race, will be the first feed of the day. The Italians here in the finishing straight are getting very excited for some reason, although I don't quite know what they've got to cheer about at the moment. The Italians, certainly having dominated the early season cycle racing activities, haven't really shown themselves in this race with the same dominance that they've had in other events, which I think will be a bit of a disappointment as far as they're concerned. Let me put you in the picture. If you've been down a black hole somewhere or been on holiday off there without a newspaper to read, just a quick rundown on the stage victories we had so far. On the Saturday, when we had the prologue, when Chris Bourman unfortunately skidded and went down with a great red loss. He didn't actually throw up any sparks like I was saying that Neil Stevens did. Look at that lovely view down the mountains. The first prologue time trial was a bit up and down, a bit wet, and Jackie Durand won that one. He was in the early start of the first third of the field that went round in the dry and took the yellow jersey. By the time I went from Dinan to Lannion, again miserable conditions. Baldato won that stage in a super uphill sprint from the specialist sprinters who were all taking awful pacing on the way up, so he got that one. Durand kept the yellow jersey, and unfortunately Baldato crashed when we had that very fast run in towards Rav, and had 16 stitches in his top lip. He got on next day and rode, but it was just too much, so that was him out of the race. Well, he won stage 2. Cipollini took stage 3 from Perros-Guirec to Vitré, with 235 kilometres of racing. Burst from the pack there to get his stage victory. On the team time trial from Mayenne to Alençon, 67 kilometres. Gavis Belan won that one, and that's why they got people like Gossi up into the position of taking the yellow jersey off Jalabert. Jalabert took the yellow jersey into Vitry after Cipollini got the stage, and he kept it on that next stage. And in the following stage, after the one that Gavis Belan won the team time trial, we went from Allison to Le Havre, and Cipollini got that one. He stayed out of trouble with the crashes that happened left, right and centre, and because Jalabert was delayed in the crash by 50 seconds, Gotti took the yellow jersey. And as I said at that time, I've never seen a man look so surprised in all his life as Neil Stevens has drifted towards the front here. Don't fall off and create sparks, whatever you do, Neil. Gotti took the yellow jersey. Absolutely bomb shocked he was when they gave it to him, because there's so many riders who come down the crash, and Jalabert had been delayed. The next day, on the ride from Fécamp into Dunkirk, on the flat run down the seafront, Blijlevens, the young Dutch sprinter, he did 24, 25, I think probably 24, burst out the pack to take a very, very well judged sprint. He's now retired from the race, by the way, Gossi keeping the yellow jersey. And then from Dunkirk, turning our back on the sea, we headed in towards Belgium, where Zabel won the stage into Charleroi after a very twisting finish, and a bit of an uphill gallop it was too, and he won it on his birthday, 25th birthday. His wife and little kiddie were there to see him. And Bjorn Ries, because it split on the twist and turn and the long drag up in towards the finish, Bjorn Ries just got ahead of his teammate Gotti, and by about 3 seconds took over the yellow jersey. So that's another yellow jersey. And then Charleroi to Liège, after that domination of Indurain, who just went away and rode everybody into the ground, and they got in somewhat about 50 seconds ahead of everybody else. on his wheel. Brunel just coasted in because we're defending the position of Jalabert, who was in the green jersey and the best placed man of their team. Brunel just coasted him behind Indurain, popped off his wheel, took the stage victory. Belgium went mad. The King had been out to see the stage victory at Charleroi of Zabel, and Eddie Merckx had turned up. There's a great shame they weren't there in Liège, because Brunel took the yellow jersey with that stage victory. And when we got to the time trial from Huez, guess what? Yes, you're quite right. That went to Indurain, who won that stage and took the yellow jersey. So we had Durand, Jalabert, Gotti, Uris and Brunel and Indurain in the yellow jersey in just some 8 stages of racing. We had 6 different yellow jerseys. Well, Indurain's got it now. We're wondering if the record of 8 jerseys that was taken, a yellow jersey in the Tour when Stephen Roche won it, was going to be broken this year. It's been changing so often, but it looks now that Indurain's got his firm grip on that. It might be that he can keep it right the way through to the finish. I say might be because, as I was explaining before, that bike racing is a long, old, hard sport, and there are some people who can go away particularly on very hilly stages, and win by a tremendous amount. So you might see down there Pantani in the Carrera jersey, little white hat on, bouncing around in the front. He's the sort of fellow that can knock a good 6, 8, 10 minutes out of riders on the climb. So Indurain's got to watch these little mountain climbers, because they can still close that gap on 2 consecutive days, 2 good days in the mountain, and down could come the gap. Just looking to see if any mountain climbers are determined to do this one. I think somehow that there's been a gentleman's agreement. We'll keep our powder dry until the Col de la Croix de Fer. Let's see if somebody can launch one there. They'll watch Phil Benesto's on the front. Van Tempe's still there on the left-hand side. The polka dot jersey of Veronk still in the middle of this little lot. Why is it making it look jolly easy? I tell you, if you just got at the bottom of this climb and tried to ride up with them, sitting at the back, you'd be really gasping to stay with it, because they make it look so easy. But they're professional bike riders, it's their living, and they've all come through the amateur ranks to get themselves ready to turning pro. And not all the amateurs can turn pro by any means, because the different standard from the amateur ranks to the pro ranks leaves many of them absolutely gasping. There you see on the right-hand side, the team vehicles are there, allowing anybody who wants to come forward to move on the left-hand side. You see one or two moving through, and the official to move through as well. The string of motorcyclists, the cameraman behind, just waiting for the thing to erupt so they can come through on their motorbikes to get the pictures of it. Quick bottle then. I didn't think it's getting to be that warm. It's getting quite chilly at the moment. Oh, he's going to... Is he pouring it onto his shoes as well? So these new shoes that some of them have got, I'm a great one, because I'm going back a few years now, always like leather shoes with the leather sole, but some of these shoes now with these special plastic type finishes, I think are probably inclined to get a bit hot, and your feet, when you're getting very hot, can swell somewhat. It's not uncommon to see the riders put the feeding bottle of water down onto their feet just to cool them off. And the shoe, they don't have laces on many of these shoes now. They have these Velcro fastenings. If you're not careful, the Velcro, which is a big thick lump of Velcro, you've got 2 straps of Velcro very often, can keep your feet rather hard onto the pedals. And because they're using these clipless pedals now, the sole of the shoes, usually a plastic material, reinforced plastic material, it just is so rigid that your feet just don't flex at all like they used to do with leather, and that is gorgeous, isn't it? Man and machine against the elements. The road going ever upwards, they can see it ahead of them. Happy, I think, that nobody's been stupid enough, that they would say, to rip the legs off the rest, but there's somebody in there who is prepared to do it. Festina won't on the left-hand side of his screen, because they've got the man in the polka dot jersey, Richard Veronk. Their job is to sit around, keep him company, make sure that if he has any need of assistance, they can render it to him. If he wants any food. Somebody suddenly swerved a little bit to one side then. You're looking at about 150 riders We started 154 this morning. Cipollini and Van der Aarden have retired so far. Frédéric Moncassin is off the back with Jackie Durand, so it might be that Moncassin might decide to call it a day. He was allowed back in the race after having hurt his ankle and hit his head when he crashed yesterday. And it just shows you the guts and determination which I've been talking about for these riders. There was Moncassin, but if anybody said, look, you were outside the time limit yesterday, you fought a venerable battle, despite the fact that you were really suffering from your crash, therefore go home and rest and recover. But he got on his bike again today. His team manager put in a claim that he should be allowed to start. He started, and he's way off the back. So it'll be a very lonely ride indeed. He's got Billy Durand for company, and you can see this spreading out. One of them getting shelled off. The effects of racing for 1,000 miles in just under 10 days are beginning to have their effects. The actual road distances they've been coming have been in excess of 100 miles every day. The reason it's just on 1,000 miles in 10 days, which means around 100 miles a day, but in fact they've been racing more than that, is because the time trials themselves are somewhat shorter. The team time trial and the individual time trial, both of them being around about the 64 kilometre mark, and 54 kilometre individual time trial, 67 for the team time trial. So when they've actually been on the road, they were racing every day on the road. I mean, yesterday's stage of 100 miles was the shortest we had so far. There are little flashing lights showing that they, in fact, that shows it over the top of it. Well, they're not actually. That red line was a bit drifting along on our profile. We're not quite over the top yet. So, Mr. Caption Generator. Now the fellows interested in the points at the top here is the man in the polka dot jersey, Veronk. I think he'll be happy again that the thing is not flying up the climb here, because he did suffer a bit on that climb yesterday. And in the King of the Mountains competition, if you just come in and want to watch this one as they go up here, the second place man, Zulab, is in the pink jersey for the Once team. And you see the winding up now going on the front from Festina. 1 kilometre then for the top of this one. Indrain is third on the King of the Mountains competition, but I don't think he'll be too bothered about that. Left hand side, polka dot jersey, Veronk then. Zula 102 points against his 101. I can't see 100 now. I can't see Zula yet at the moment in the pink jersey. They go towards the top of this climb then with the points at stake in the King of the Mountains competition. Nice bit of a lead out that Veronk is getting on the way up, and still the field now is suddenly beginning to split. The green jersey of Jalabert back about 10 spots from the front, just showing that he can still stick with them, and that nice lead out going on here for Veronk in the polka dot jersey. Zula is about in his second spot, and he's in a pink jersey. I can't see anything of it at all at the moment, so it looks like Veronk's going to get a nice little toe toward the top here, but he's going to be a bit challenged on the climb up. I think it might be Bonora's trying to get up to him at the moment, the Camerada, but they're romping up the wheel. Veronk is rocketing away, and he's going to try for that first spot, and he's still looking back over his shoulder as he left it too late. Veronk then still on the inside. Veronk going through, and he's opened up quite a bit. Veronk takes it then ahead of his teammate, and so that will give him maximum points then. We'll just get confirmation of that as the rest of the field stream through. First blood then today to Veronk, the King of the Mountains jersey, safely on his shoulders, and the rest of the field stringing over the top now. They are grabbing the newspapers to stick them up their front of the mouth. Going to be very chilly on the way down. Yet another one. Whoops, watch him, he's just behind you. And you see also now time to eat. Now this is the flat out part. We'll just keep our eyes open. This descent down isn't too bad actually. I've been down trickier ones than this one, but look at it, each is on your way down. Look, here we go. One hand on the brakes. Oh, just like somebody's pulled the cord out of a string of pearls and let him go. That's staking down the hill over 40 miles an hour. safety so far. Keep your fingers crossed. See the gaps opening up right back at the top there. I'm going to look back at that slow motion sprint. Bronk then taking the points. So he got 111, so this is going to improve his position overall. No problem. Oh, you see that left-hand side, that cut-out bike. There's a nice bit of work done, somebody there to commemorate the Tour de France over the top of the Col de Madeleine. Descending now, it's all the way, there's no real false flatness, it just drops like a stone, or these plural stones dropping down now, and they're going to drop down for something around about 20 kilometres down the bottom to the feeding station at Saint-Marie-des-Quines. And we're having plenty to eat at the moment, so they'll be able to replenish this when they get to the bottom. And I can't think anything's going to happen on the way down now that's going to disturb the whole happening. So 40 points, 35. Oh, it's Brochard with his teammate, and Munoz at 30 points. Well, none of those two any great threat on the King of the Mountain. In fact, Brochard wouldn't challenge his teammate over the top there. Munoz on the King of the Mountains competition. Well, perhaps he's going to start going well when we get in towards the Pyrenees, because looking at the list at the moment, Munoz from the Calmy team hasn't been featuring at all. It's weird. It got him down in 10th spot. He had 30 points, so he's moving himself up into probably about 4th overall at the moment. So perhaps the Munoz has decided on the next climb today that he'll have another go at that one and having a go at the King of the Mountains competition. He certainly romped up there, but you can see very little diddy chap he was too, and idle mountain climber, so perhaps he'll be happy to have another go at the next climb, providing this little lot stay compact together. Well, I can't think what's going to happen on the way down, and looking at my watch here, it's 2 o'clock Central European time, 1 o'clock back at home. If you come home for lunch and switch on the telly to watch the Tour de France, then you can also nip out and get yourself your sarnies, whatever you're going to have for lunch today. Nice salad, I suppose. Or sit and put your feet up and just watch the race as it goes through. But I don't think much is going to happen. It's going to be nice scenic stuff with them all zigzagging down like this, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that nobody comes a box of tricks, and I can't see anybody breaking off the front. But I've got size 12s, and everybody knows I can put my big feet in it with the best of them, and we may still find someone like Mr. Chiappucci beginning to come through at the front of this one. But it's a very open descent all the way down, and not much chance of nipping off the front. It's okay when you're going down a wooded one with lots of sharp bends and short straights in between them to try and get away, but you can see here the Venestos are putting the lid on things too as well to make sure the Indurain doesn't have to try too hard on today's stage. Whoops, he nearly cut in too close. Well, if you're going to have your sarnies and your cup of tea, I'm just going to help myself to my drink. Excuse me. That's better. There's the yellow jersey. We haven't seen much of him up near the front. He's just been content to stay in the top a dozen riders or so, having performed admirably yesterday to take that second place on the stage up into La Plagne. Jalabert moving up to him in the green jersey. Screech of brakes, and around they go. And always when they're going downhill, apart from the speed at which they're travelling, there's not many spectators. The sensible people go over the top of the climb to watch them come up there, and because of whizzing down here, you don't get much chance of seeing the race go through. The other reason, of course, why so many people get out on this Tour de France is to as to what's the cavalcade go through. And it can take something between 45 minutes and the hour for the cavalcade to actually go past any one given spot, with so many vehicles in it, advertising all sorts of things: cheese, fly sprays, sparking plugs, hoovers, portable radios, computers, you name it. A tremendous amount of publicity activity going on ahead of the riders before they come through. And it can take a long time for them to get past any given point. What they have to do with the cavalcade, of course, is keep a very watchful eye on the racers here, because the cavalcade can never come down the hills as fast as this lot do, and so they have to keep moving them on to make sure they don't get caught by the race. But it's all so well timed now that that isn't going to happen, as Veronk is on the front. Can't quite make out whether he's just going here to stay out of trouble, or he's going to try and do a bit of a Kyopuchi and leave them for dead and romp up the next hill, because no sooner they get down the bottom, they've got a short bit of, about 10 kilometres on the flat. It's very flat for 10Ks, and I wouldn't have thought that's a sensible thing to try and attack at the moment with 10Ks of flat. If anybody's going to launch the attack, it's got to be on the second line after the sprint. We've got a sprint at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, and he's nearly gone. I couldn't understand why he gone to the front of Jalop. Veronk again, as I said, I couldn't understand why he's going to the front to go quite so quickly as that. It wasn't necessary. He's going after King of the Mountains prize, so why attempt to rush? Action replay, slow motion again of Veronk, crazily coming down there. He's got the King of the Mountains jersey now. There's nobody really needed him. Zolo didn't get in the top half dozen or so, and he's thrown caution to him. He's come bombing down here and nearly ran out of road. He doesn't look to me like the world's greatest descenders, and he nearly came a box of tricks then, and got his polka dot jersey covered in the green stuff as well. But he's back up in one piece now. I'm suggesting you might nip off and get yourself your sarnies or something, and if I shouted out there, you're in the kitchen, you rush through, you might have seen the action replay of Mr. Veronk putting his heart in his mouth, and ours too likewise at the commentary point. There we are, confirmation then, 151 points for Veronk, 112 for Zula.
Well, welcome back, Dave.
Oh yes, I was just going to say hello, Stephen. I was writing down the score there on the King of the Mountains competition, and also just making sure that we're nice and comfy for the rest of the afternoon. We've been chatting away now. We've only got about another 3.5 hours to go, I suppose. To all the good people back at home in Great Britain and across the rest of Europe listening to us on Eurosport, my good friend Stephen Roche has now come to join me. We've been spread all over the countryside today, staying in hotels far and wide. And I said up this morning, 6 o'clock, which is 5 o'clock back at home, so burning much, well, not midnight at all, getting up with the crack of dawn. Beautiful sunrise this morning too over the Alps. It was delightful. The riders also, I think, stopping from yesterday as well, have had a good rest, a good massage, and they're on the road now, and they're all together. We haven't had any furious activity, just that Stephen, you might like to know that Mr. Cipollini has retired from the race, which is no surprise to many of us, as he's gone back to get his hair firm, I suppose, and drive his Ferrari or something. Also bad luck to Van der Aarden, who really struggled to stay with the race yesterday. He's knocked it on the head, and at the moment Jackie Durand has been dropped off the back, and he's got with him Moncassin, who was allowed back in yesterday, although he was outside the time limit. The judge allowed him back in again after his crash, and now with this Nobel rider coming down here, much better than Veronk. What news have you from the front, sir?
Well, this morning everybody was being very, very shy this morning, because the top riders like Rominger and Berzin, they were more or less, what to say, humiliated with yesterday's performance, but they were all hiding. Like yesterday morning I spoke to them, they were all very anxious and very keen to go, and all full of ambition, and then this morning I speak to the same people, and they're like, some of the air has gone out of the towers. Then they will, before leaving them, they say, well, Stephen, isn't over yet. You know, but it's kind of, it's not a kind of fighting. It's not over yet. It's kind of not over yet. It says, well, wait and see what happens. But I spoke to Zuli this morning, and Zuli was we call him in France the Benjamin, because the Benjamin's like a guy he's always smiling. He looked like a big schoolboy. He was 30 recently, but he's like a big schoolboy, and they call him the Benjamin. But he got the combativity award this morning on the podium, and he was like a schoolboy. He's very joyful, joking and talking to everybody and asked them what have you recovered from yesterday. He says, yesterday, when, what happened? Well, you mean your attack yesterday? Ah, yeah, well, you know, well, all the others have written the same distance as me. Like, he wasn't, I got making a kind of a reference to the fact that his 90 kilometre effort yesterday, saying to him, well, would he be a little bit more tired than the others? Well, the others have done the same, you know, so like the kind of attitude that Azule has, like, it's very decontracted and very, very straight up, very, very easy going with everybody. So he said that today, he told me he had prepared his season. I said to him, well, we haven't seen much of him since the start of the year, apart from one appearance here and there. He said, well, this year I prepared for the Tour de France, a stage win Tour de France, finishing the first 5, and to win the Tour of Spain. So that's being ambitious, but I think myself the man is capable of it, because we saw him in 1993 doing very, very well, and being a bit young, he passed professional very, very late in his career as regards age-wise. I think he went professional when he was only 26, 27, whereas he was still even though he may be 30 years of age now, he's still a young in regards professional cycling is concerned. He only has 4 years or so experience, so he's learned from his past experience. He's been a very, very good team in the UNCI team. He's learned a lot from the riding with the likes of Jan Brunel, Eric Brooking, Laurent Jalabert now. He's learned an awful lot. He's very easygoing and very intelligent as regards tactics in the race-wise. Very, very obliging, very, very courageous as regards tactics. We saw yesterday he wasn't at all afraid to go in the front. So I think we're going to see more of him, and I think myself, well, he was saying that I asked him what about the rest of the tour. There's now Stephen defending the position until Saint-Etienne. Then between the Saint-Etienne and the Pyrenees, then we'll see how it goes, and then we'll talk about tactics then. But for the moment, I'm just going to, if I see Miguel Indurain today in difficulty, then I will attack him, but I have no plan as such to be trying to be courageous today in any other way.
Do you think, Stephen, that you said that the Benjamin attitude, the happy, smiling, easy-go-lucky attitude he's got? Do you think that he's lacked a bit of a killer instinct, really, because he has got seems to be a natural potential? But I've seen him ride. He's got. He does seem to be. I won't say he can do it effortlessly, but how he rode yesterday was absolutely superb. But on other races, he does. I thought, did he lack the killer instinct, or was he just prepared to ride to a certain level?
No, I think he had the killer instinct before, but he hadn't got the legs maybe to go with it, because if you remember 2 or 3 years ago in the Tour of Spain, when he gave Rominger a good run for his money, he needed a certain amount of killer instinct to be able to be up there, to be able to rival with Rominger. But yesterday, when you look, he did 99 kilometres in the front yesterday, 70 of those kilometres all on his own, and there was only 4 people who went faster than him on the climb up to La Plagne. One was Indurain, then there was a group of Pontani,
Tonkov and Gotti.
Yeah. There only those 4 riders went faster than himself. And when you talk about Gotti, Pontani and Tonkov, he only went slightly faster than him. He only went a couple of seconds faster than him in the final 17 kilometres up to La Plagne, and he'd been in front all day. So I think that takes a certain amount of instinct, whether it be killer instinct or whatever, but it takes an awful lot of courage and an awful lot of kind of back breaking to be able to hold off a bunch behind you of such, like Pantani and those boys are by no means nobodies, and they'd been in the wheels all day. So to be able to go up the final climb 17 kilometres at the same speed as them and lose very little time on them, I think was an exceptional feat on his own behalf.
Well, here they are, not quite the animals going 2 by 2 into the arc, but they're all long, strung out string of riders here, finding a decent wheel to follow down. I suppose, Steve, when it's descending like this, there's 1 or 2 blokes you don't want to follow in a case like this, isn't there? And some of those you are happy to follow.
Well, like it's the same. There are guys who descend well under the sides, the guys who sprint well. When the guys that are sprinting well are sprinting in the sprints, a mountain climber is never going to be in there. Or doesn't want to be in there amongst them because it's very dangerous. And the same thing on the descents. You get guys that descend well, and then guys that don't descend well. So the guy that does come down well doesn't want to be near the guy that doesn't come down well, because he puts them out of line, he breaks the wrong places, he upsets everything and makes them very, very nervous and very, very uptight. And when you're uptight, that's when the accidents often come. So everyone avoids the bad guys in different disciplines.
And the field beginning to regroup a bit now on the descent. I'm just trying to remember this. I think the next bit we go through is a bit grotty. When we're down in the valley, they're going to switch backwards and forwards. And the dual carriageway, which is a pretty main road that all the traffic's going to go on, they're going to go on some very minor roads with a lot of potholes and roadworks and what have you. If anybody's mad enough to start an attack at all before we go up the top of the Col de la Croix de Fer, then it's going to be on the section which they'll hit when they get to the bottom of the climb. They're going to go to a place called La Chambre, and when they will then have covered some 66 kilometres of the race today, and then to Saint-Brie de Coudine, and then to Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. I know that some of you like to look on your maps to see where the course is, and if you can get a map out and look at the map of France, Grenoble is to the left if you're looking at your map of the Alpes. Huez and Bourg-Roison is over to the right-hand side, and Grenoble will be clearly marked on your map. And if you look sort of north-east of there, a place called Chambry, and then the Lac d'Annecy up there on your map, where we're running basically parallel to that, on the somewhat smaller roads, Aime La Plagne down to Moutier, over the Col de la Madeleine, where they've come down now, and they're heading really in a southwesterly direction. They'll run the main road they run alongside is the N6, the one that goes from Chambry up over the Alps, and they were going alongside the River Arc before they head up towards the Col de Croix de Fer, and then down into Bourg-Roison before the sharp left turn back up to the Alpe d'Huez. So that's the sort of course today, generally running in a southwesterly direction, and the sun shining here, but up on the mountains it's quite chilly, and the riders will be shortly down the bottom of this fast descent, heading in towards the feeding station, and then on that climb up the Col de la Croix de Fer. That climb then, which will be some 22.3 kilometres in long length, and a 5.5% climb it is too. Most of the field will probably be together intact by the time they get to the bottom of the climb, and thankfully they'll have gone through the feed as well. Still zigzagging down here, you can see from the front to back of this field, probably something around about 300-400 metres distance from front to back, but they'll all be able to regroup on the flatter part. All the leading vehicles have been sent ahead. They're heading off now towards the feeding station.
Welcome back to your sports coverage of the Tour de France.
Out in the middle of an apple then.
Bon appetit, David. Bon appetit.
I've got to take my headphone off. I didn't hear the countdown. You keep talking while I finish my apples.
Well, here we are heading now for the Croix de Fer. The group is still together. Some riders going off the back, but for those of you who have just joined us, there's been one abandon, of that being Mario Cipollini, who came into the Tour de France this year saying that he wanted to finish the Tour. He wasn't really banking on the green jersey, but he wanted to win status, and then to try and finish it for his first time ever finishing a major Tour. So yesterday he got a bit of a hammering, and this morning he rode the Madeleine, and then climbed off. So Cipollini's gone, so there's one less sprinter now for the next stages, the flat stages, which will be coming here after Saint Etienne stage on Friday.
Actually, before you arrived, Stephen, that I feel better now for that apple. I really choked myself. Peter Voigt, the German commentator, who was saying in one of our breaks that with Cipollini out, we can pick up Abdou Jaffa. We know some of the sprinters anyway, but he does give some of the other lads a chance now, because they will be able to. I mean, like in the Mercaton Uno team, we had Panini taking the third spot in that first sprint. Now, he wouldn't have been, I won't say allowed to do it, but Cipollini would have had the rights to have gone for that one. Martinello, their other good sprinter, actually been eliminated from the race as well so far. So we'd like to see one or two chaps prepared to have a go. And in fact, we've got a sprint coming up not long after the feeding station at 78.5 kilometres covered, and that's around about 9 kilometres after the feed. And let's see if we can get another mixtures before Abdou Jafarov and Jalabert fighting out for the points, and who else might pop up to get amongst them. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, everybody today is more or less trying to recover after the last 3 days as such, because yesterday was a very hard stage. Yeah. The flying is very warmer.
Just talk about that moment, Stephen, because a lot of people may be listening at lunchtime back in England, and I'll explain. Stephen Roche, my co-commentator, having won the Tour de France, the Tour of Italy, and the World Championship all in 1 year, is well versed in this, having ridden the Tour de France several times as well. I think he finished third as well, didn't he, the other time? But what's this recovery thing like? Because I mean, people can't comprehend how you can do all this riding, Stephen, and then get back up next day. Just how do you feel? I mean, are they all bright and shiny next day, or are they really suffering? What are riders going through? Can you explain in terms of physical feeling?
Well, first of all, like, nobody just gets on the bike and goes to the start of the Tour de France and rides it. Like, the training for the Tour de France actually starts in the winter season. Like, you're training the winter for the following season. So when you start training in November or December, they're actually putting up miles and specific training, which is hopefully kind of designed to pay off for the Tour de France. Even though you might be riding the Paris-Nices, the Liège-Bastogne-Lièges classics, you're riding them okay, but you're still having in your mind the Tour de France, because you have to be, first of all, you have 16, 18, 20 riders in a team maybe, but there are only, of course, 9 riders ride the Tour de France. So you have to kind of deserve your selection first of all. So you're out there training for Paris-Nice, and each time you're riding a race, whether it be Paris-Nice, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, or the Amstel Gold Race, or Tour de Pays Basque, wherever, you're all the time pushing your limit up a little higher. You're digging deeper into your reserves all the time. And that's why any of you might have noticed that Miguel Indurain, he never really pushed himself so hard early on. It's all the time, little by little by little. He pushes the marker on his effort scale a little bit higher. So when he gets the Tour de France, then his bottom stepped on nice and slowly to be at his maximum. So he hasn't really gone overboard and hurt himself too much before getting to the Tour de France. But like most of his riders before Tour de France, they would all have clocked up about, I'd say, in around 10,000 miles since last November, December. So doing 10,000 miles on your bike does accumulate a certain amount of fitness, and so these boys, they've no fat to lose, or very little fat to lose. Their muscles, people that go to gymnasiums and do 3 days a week gymnastics or do weight training and what have you, you can imagine the way your muscles react. Well, these boys ride a bike every day, or most days. The only day they wouldn't ride is that they're going to be traveling to a race or something's happening, or the dog is sick or whatever. But at the same time, they're riding the bikes every day and putting up miles and miles and miles. Not just putting in like touring miles. They're doing one day, they might do a training sprint, could be 5, maybe 6 hours maybe, and they might do 1 hour just normal pace. They might, during the next 2 hours after that, then they might do power training, which is using a big gear and climbing mountains maybe, or some kind of specific training. And then finish off, of course, with an hour easy. So every day they're doing something. They prepare themselves for more than one thing, but one thing in the sense that everyone wants to prepare to be on the best for the Tour de France. So these boys that are here are the best of the best. They're well prepared for the Tour, and they all, of course, go into the Tour de France with the hope of finishing it as they come through the feeding station here.
And let's hope they get through safe and sound and in one piece as the sponsors out here. Fortunately, there aren't too many of the crowd out here. The crowd are all on the big mountains. Often we see on the flatter stages that the crowd go to where the feeding station is just to get some souvenirs and see them go through. But anybody who knows much about bike racing would like to go up in the mountain, this part of the neck of the woods, rather than stand around in the feeding area.
If you notice there, Dave, the feeding station was a lot more casual than we've seen in the flat stages up around Belgium. The reason being, well, kind of the general classification is more or less stabilised itself now for this moment. So it's the riders don't do so much pushing and shoving going into the feed. Everyone takes their musette nice and handy, and then is happy to think that, well, nobody's going to attack now. Normally after the stage yesterday, people are going to be happy until you hit maybe the top of the Croix de Fer before setting down into Bourdoisan before going to Alpe d'Huez, before they start actually giving it a good go.
You're quite right. The speed at which they were going through the feeding stations early on in this race was just phenomenal, wasn't it? And they were just ripping through there, and if they were missing a bit or a bag, were just hanging on for grim death until someone else could come up with one. There's much more sort of, well, let's wait chance till we get to this next climb. But there is a sprint just about 6 or 7 kilometres down the road there, so happy they may be, but the action will start again shortly. But Steve, describe how the training that these riders do before the race and what form they have to get into. And obviously some of them may say, right, I'm the Tour de France, I'll do the Tour of Italy, I'll do the Tour of Spain, or any combination of those three, plus other events. I'm just concerned about the muscular pain or the aches in the body, or the fact your bones seem numb next morning when you rode like yesterday. The condition when the weather was so miserable and horrible when they got there, although fortunately the top men finished before then. When you wake up in the morning, I know they have massage and stuff, but is there a feeling of total physical weakness, or do you come back good each day?
Well, it'd be too good if you were to come back to 100% every day. So the thing is, you're 100% in the morning, starting the first day, and you go out and get a hammering. So you go back down to about 60%. Then you get a good massage, you have a good meal, and you get plenty of rest. You're back up to about 98%. Then the next day, then you go out and you lose another 30%. You're back down to 58%, and you get then after the stage, then you get your meal, your massage. You go back up to 96%. And after 3 weeks, then riders will be only down to about 75-80% of their normal potential and the normal form. But so it'll be the guy who recovers the best and is still able to ride as close as he can to 100% that comes out on top of the Tour de France. Because it's all very fine to ride well in one day and do great rides here and there, but the most important thing is not to have any one bad day, because you can lose the Tour de France and having one bad day, and everyone knows that. Normally riders, we saw Bears in yesterday actually, which is a typical example of a young Tour de France rider, because normally most young Tour de France riders will always have one bad day in the first 1 or 2 tours, because the Tour de France is so long, or Tour of Italy, any of these major tours are so long, and you get the heat, you got the rain like we saw in Belgium, in Brittany, the cold, and you got all sorts of things to cope with. So your body is not used to working like this. Normally they do small stage races of 6 to 8 days, 10 days maybe, but never nothing like the Tour de France. And every day it's intense. And you must remember, when you make other smaller races, you have the riders that are selected for that race, but you never have the best of the best. Tour de France accumulates the best of the best. All the teams have to select their top riders, and they have the best of the best in there. So these riders are all very, very fit riders, and they've all been prepared, especially for the Tour. So, but still, any young rider, we saw Brazil yesterday losing 17 minutes, is basically because, well, okay, he's won the Tour of Italy, but he got an awful hammering in the Tour of Italy, even though he finished it very strongly. There was no big surprise. We were very disappointed, of course, but a rider like Brazil, 25 years of age, coming to his first Tour de France, getting a hammering like yesterday, it's not something which is uncommon.
Well, bad news has come through for Fondres supporters. Mauricio Fondres has abandoned at the feeding zone. Also, Javier Molilon has climbed off his bike at the feeding zone. We've already lost Cipollini. Van der Arden has also retired today, so we've had 4 men go. I just wonder whether Jackie Durand will soldier on with Moncassin at the back at the moment. Durand, I think, will certainly soldier on, but Moncassin, we know after crashing yesterday, is off the back at the moment. The sad news then about Fondres, but he always has been somebody who can go well in the 7 to 10 day tours, but just doesn't seem to be able to go all the way in the big tours. He had a similar problem in the Giro when he retired about halfway through the race, and now we know that Fondres has climbed off at the feeding zone. Quite a common place to collect riders who abandon, isn't it, in the feeding zone? Because with your Spaniard's car, or your team car there, standing on the side there, I think it must be a great temptation to say, I've had enough of this sunshine, I'm climbing off.
Well, it is, and I think before the Tour de France, Mauricio Fondres didn't really want to come to the Tour, so he wasn't really in great shape coming into the Tour. We saw that in the flat stages earlier on, where he should have actually been more dominant. He wasn't the man that we know him to be. But we look down the list of the GC sheet, we see there are only 164 riders left. Now you take out a couple of abandons today. We're not yet to the finish. Tonight we're going to have less than 160 riders in the bunch. So we're nearly talking about maybe 35 riders already gone, and we've only done 1.5 weeks, and we're only like halfway through the Tour.
And that very much has been due to the speed at which the race is going. We covered now one Thursday. We've now got information coming in here that Berzin has abandoned. My French co-commentators here are listening on Race Radio. We're watching it coming up on our screen at the moment, and the news has come in off Race Radio then that Berzin has abandoned. That is sad news then to support this young, likeable, up-and-coming Russian star, winner of the Tour of Italy a couple of years ago. There it is on your screen now. He took an awful pasting yesterday, and he's retired from the race. Well, I wonder if he's going to ride the Tour of Spain. I'm sure he didn't do as well as he wanted in the Tour of Italy this year. I wonder then again whether he's got that deep courage, Steve. He got the Tour of Italy. He looked like an up-and-coming lad. We've seen so many times in the past somebody comes along, just wins one race and then hovers through a bit, doesn't he? I mean, he's got talent, but somehow has he got will he grow into the stature to be able to compete at this level?
Well, he can certainly talk about it. He can certainly promise it, because if you remember all the goings on and the paperwork articles that were written about him, and about him telling Durand that he was going to show him how to win the Tour de France in his first year, and this, that, and everything else. But the problem with Berzin is he is a little bit that way, but he's very young, I think, mentally in that sense. But I think he's learned a lot over the last few days, and I think he will quieten down a lot now, and I think he has definitely got the potential, the physical potential to win the Tour de France, and I will be putting my money on him in the future, once again with the likes of Zule. But unfortunately, well, I didn't talk to him this morning, but I don't, I don't know really what happened to him yesterday. But getting a hammering yesterday is something which is not actually talking about hammering. It's my first Tour de France that I rode in 1923. I actually lost 22 minutes here on Alpe d'Huez, and happened to be in the front group with Van Imp, Van de Velde, Hino, and all the top men. And coming over to Col de Glandon, there's the big man, the hammer got me the same way as Berzin yesterday, and I just kind of crawled to the finish and lost 22 minutes alone on Alpe d'Huez. And the next day I was second to Morzine, but I was starting to go well, and whereas I had to take a couple of hammerings before I actually started going well, I'm sure it's the same way at Berzin.
Stephen, you made that recovery there. You've been through the trials and tribulations riding the Tour. A lot of young cyclists out there think, I'd love to ride the Tour de France. I presume, I never rode past a 5-day stage race in my life, and I used to get better as things went on. I suppose you never know until you start riding these longer races whether you've got the ability to do it, because it's something totally different, isn't it?
It is. It's everything is different, like your whole way of life. It's all a matter of sleep. Like my day in the Tour de France would be I get up in the morning whenever we had to get up. We'd have normally a good breakfast, which would be about 2.5-3 hours before the actual start of the race. Get down to the race, ride the race. Race is finished, then I'll be doing my interviews and everything else. Back down to my hotel. When I'm going back to my hotel, there's normally a 20, 30, 40 kilometre transfer back in the car. I'll be sleeping in the car. Back to the hotel, up to my room, into the shower, have my shower, out of my shower to bed. The Swan Euro come along then and call me about 45 minutes before dinner. So he'd always take me last before going to dinner, put me up on the table, I'd sleep. When I had to turn over, he hit me like, Stephen, turn over. I'd turn over, he'd massage the back. When he was finished, I'd say, Stephen, okay now, get up now, you gotta go to dinner. So I kind of roll on the table, hit my training gear, and then off to dinner. Then I would normally recover, but the important thing is to be able to recover, to get as much sleep as we can.
Well, that's the pressure these riders are under in the Tour de France, which has now covered over 1,000 miles, an average speed of 26.5 miles an hour. The riders through the feeding station after covering some 67 miles of this 162 kilometre stage from Aime La Plagne to Alpe d'Huez. This is the 10th stage of the Tour de France. Let me just recap on the situation so far as we've been on air now something like about 2.5 hours, and we may have a new audience to speak to. We're covering these 162 kilometres today with the man in the yellow jersey, Miguel Indurain, leading on general classification by 2 minutes and 27 seconds from Alex Zur. In third spot then, Bjorn Ries 5 minutes 58 seconds back. Rominger is fourth at 6:35. Gotti fifth at 6:54. Jalabert in sixth spot at 8:14. Mauri back in seventh at 8:17. Tonkov 11 minutes 11 seconds down, puts him in eighth spot. Claudio Chiappucci hovering there in ninth spot at 12 minutes 32. And Escartin, the other man in the top 10, at 13 minutes and 6 seconds. The news at the feeding station at 67 kilometres was that Berzin, was lying 21st this morning, 17 minutes at 47 seconds down, has retired from the race. That is the overall top 10, and that is Berzin out.
I just heard on the race radio a minute ago, Bombini, who's Berzin director sportif, being interviewed, and he said that yesterday after the race he had a lot of fever, temperature. So he had the very same thing in the time trial 2 days ago up in Belgium. So the same thing arriving twice in 3 days. They thought, well, it's better to have him out than keep him going, because the warm weather of today and the mountains and everything else, starting the race today having a temperature wouldn't have been a good decision.
Well, that's one of the problems of being a bike rider. You can't suddenly phone up your boss and say, I'm not turning up to work today, I've got a sick note for the doctor, please can I come tomorrow? In Tour de France you've got 3 weeks of racing. Every day you've got to be there, every day you've got to be at best. There's no way you can decide to lie in bed and come back the next day. 1,000 metres to go in the sprint. The green jersey is being worn by Jalabert of France then, and a little bit of a lead out here from Stephen. Don't quite see what he's up to then, because he's nowhere placed in that at all.
For Jalabert.
For Jalabert, oh yes, because he would. He's gone too fast, hasn't he?
The Japarov is there in third place, you see.
He went too quick though, didn't he, Stevens? They couldn't get him onto his wheel. So
at the same time, Jalabert was boxed in, you see. So if Stevens hadn't done that, Jalabert might have found it difficult in getting out. But now Jalabert now is on Abdul Japarov's wheel, so he's the dead man in Neil Stevens, and he has the wheel of Abdul Japarov. That's actually Ekimov. Is this leading out? Looks like Ekimov.
Yeah, Ekimov usually leads out on a straight sprint like this, and it is Ekimov looking back now to see that he's got Jalabert on his Abdul Japarov on his wheel. Jalabert is behind Abdul Jafarov, and that look a steep bar into fourth spot at the moment. So we'll see that Ekimov, a previous pursuit champion of the world, something like 10 world records to his credit, very, very fast man indeed, rode a superb Paris-Roubaix this year. Now leading out his friend here, and he's gone the other side of it. Jalabert nearly got himself in the back wheel of Ekimov, but he had to go right the way round him. It's a long way, so Abdul Jafarov pounding to the pedals and takes it on the line ahead of Jalabert. So that's the first and second. I think Ekimov drifted over in third spot. Virtually a repeat of the first sprint of the day when Abdul Jafarov beat Jalabert. But the big thing is that Jalabert can climb that notch better than Abdul Jafarov. Abdul Jafarov then hoping he can stay with Jalabert for the final lunge up towards the Alpe today. But he's got to work hard on these flatter parts to get some extra points in the King of the Mountains in the sprint competition.
Well, that's true, of course, but at the same time, Jalabert will find it difficult getting into the first 10. So Jalabert will not be getting very much points no matter what he does. So if Abdul Jafarov can keep ahead of him and get a few points here and there in the sprints classification, at least, well, it keeps it close all the time. And then Abdul Jafarov, then if he can win a sprint, now Cipollini's out of it. If Abdul Jafarov can win a sprint in the flat, but then like Jalabert, we could find in the last definitely rerun of the sprint here, like Ekimov, I wouldn't say looks like he maybe could have done it a little bit on purpose, but I wouldn't think that Ekimov would have tried to bring Jalabert across the road. I think he just came across the road, but he didn't see if Jalabert was coming across on his left-hand side. But if Jalabert the last few weeks we've been seeing Jalabert riding very, very well, making a lot of progress in the mountains and in time trials. He has lost a bit of his ability to sprint, so when it comes down to the fast finishes, Abdul Jafarov might have a little bit of an edge on him. So the green jersey is still a possibility for Abdul Jafarov.
Abdul Jafarov then took the green jersey in the Tour de France in 1991. He took it again in 93 and 94. He's had 3 victories in the sprints of the Classement par points, the green jersey. Abdul Jafarov there collecting 6 points, Jalabert 4. So that means 12 points so far today to Abdul Jafarov and 8 points to Jalabert. So he's cut the deficit by 4 points from the situation this morning. Jalabert was the points victor in 1992. Of course, Abdul Jafarov is heading to try and get the 4th green jersey of his career, and that would equal the great Sean Kelly. We haven't seen anything of Sean on this Tour de France, so I don't know whether he'd like it to turn up any time at all. But have you spoken to Sean at all this year, Stephen? No, that's since we rode in Sean Kelly's. Oh, that goodbye race that Sunday in December was unbelievable. I mean, since then.
Well, before we go on to talk about Sean, you see the brochures having you go here with Thomas Davey. I wonder, is he trying to make up something for a possible attack of Yank behind it? But Sean, I've spoke to him once or twice on the phone. He is a very, very busy man at the moment, I believe, and he's trying to get it back into normal life after being out of it for some 16 years riding his bike as a professional on the continent. But I believe he's more busy now than he was even on a bike, as I am myself. But I believe now he's starting to build a house and he's getting settled back in now with his wife and family back in Carrick-on-Shore. So I don't think he has actually a
Brunel.
That's not Brunel, no. It's actually no, it's not Brunel. I don't know who it is. I can't see it in the air, but it's not Brunel anyway. Marino Rojas. Rojas, I think, yeah.
Yes, Rojas, it is.
Rojas, yeah.
They look very similar. Look at the haircut, you see, without the hats on. I look down at the haircut in the sun.
Oh, it's difficult to see it from the
So we might be getting some action here on the gets into the narrow part of the course, and here we are. Well, that's unusual, this little bit of a dig at the front, but gone up there. Thomas Davies obviously is going to police this ride. I can't work these tactics out because the wrong surely would just need somebody close to him, not this far down the road.
I think if Ryan can get away on the hill, it's good to have a man in front, because if yesterday we saw he had 1 or 2 teammates with him all the time. He had Thibaut with him, and he had also Laurent Desfou with him. So he's not going to be on his own, but if he has a man in the front, at least if he can get across to him, he has someone else to ride with him. So the Onsley as well are having a go, because they're probably thinking on the same terms. They've got a man in front, but they haven't got a chase behind. At the same time, if a Jalabert, if Brooking, or if a Brunel or a Zule, why not Zule, can get the opportunity of getting across, but at least there's one man in the front that can ride for them. That can be very important in the final closing stages. But at the same time, then there's the guys then will be also have the motivation to be in the front, because they know that the Quad Fair is a very, very hard climb, and out the Huez is even harder. So any ground they can, any kind of advance they can have going into Alpe d'Huez is better, because Alpe d'Huez is going to be an incredible hill, as it always is. It's very, very warm, it's very steep in the first 5 kilometres, and an awful lot of riders just find it very difficult to get over the first 5 kilometres. So a rider at the moment, these kind of riders here will be thinking, well, if I can get over the first 5 kilometres of Alpe d'Huez, if the group catch me then, I should finish reasonably well up. So that's probably one other reason behind the motivation of these riders going away at the moment.
And this is the climb then up the Col de la Croix Fair. At the top of the climb there'll be 2,067 metres above sea level. The actual climb itself is 1,500 metres, which means they're going to climb about 4,600 feet on the way up here. Again, it's one of those long old drags. They're going to be up climbing for 22.3 kilometres of climb on this particular one. So it's around about 17.5 miles. I made it 29 kilometres on my check when I over the climb here, but anyway, it's somewhere about 15-16 miles of climbing, as still these riders then trying to prize themselves away. And as they join up now, I just would like to say, looking back at Sean Kelly, I found it quite interesting all the years when we're trying to interview him, and he never had much to say to him. You know, he was always kept himself to himself. How well he spoke at that presentation at the end of his career at Carrick-on-Shore, and he was there joking. He said the biggest thing is people were asking me, Sean, have you got enough money? I thought he said that, you know, with a wry smile. Gosh, Sean, you know, he suddenly stops riding, becomes we can have him as a commentator with us, is that right or not?
Of course, Sean learned a lot over that. Here's another festival going ahead with Neil Stevens. We're talking here. There's an awful lot of things going on here. An awful lot of riders going in the front.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, if there's any fireworks behind at all today, it's going to be another great day. But Sean, of course, when he went professional first, he wasn't a great talker because nobody spoke to him probably. But then with the success, Sean got better and better, and of course, he had the intelligence, first of all, to be able to talk, and it is when he had the day for himself down in Carrick-on-Shore, he impressed an awful lot of people, and I was even very impressed with what he said, and it was very touching and very emotional in what he was saying, and it was a very big day for Irish cycling, and we don't know if we'll ever see the same happen again.
Well, if you're back in Ireland, we wish you a long and happy retirement, and I'm sure you're going to find yourself, as Stephen was saying, awfully busy. And if you're watching the race now, then reading the tactics as we're doing here, it certainly seems to be penny numbers coming up here. Seems to be somebody from every different team having a go.
Maybe if he could give us a hint on what's going to happen, he might give us a call and,
yeah, sure.
And fill us in.
We're at Alpe d'Huez, they might find us.
Yeah.
This is so new. They're jumping all over the place. Bolts for this one, and now this is good then, because moving up here, Barbero from Carrera, so he might be providing a stepping stone for the rest of his career teammates like Capucci or Pantani to come up. This is an amazing. They're slipping off the front one by one by one. I suppose Indra is just going to keep his eyes on Zuller, isn't he? And make sure that
there as well. Brooking in there as well. It looks like Brooking there and leading that front with Barbero. But the Ultra team, all they have to do is keep enough of their own teammates in the front with Miguel and Duran onto the foot of Alpe d'Huez. Then Miguel they can put into overdrive and do like he did yesterday. He has to do it. But for the moment, there's no real reason, no real need for him to get all excited about it, because all these boys going in the front are all reasonably well down on GC. They also have the motivation behind these boys going in front as well, as there's also the possibility to have a stage winner. If they wait till the last climb up Alpe d'Huez with Miguel and Johan, and there's any kind of a fight there at all, these boys will be all wiped out. So they can get some kind of advance on Miguel before, and Miguel and also the riders who are capable of being in there for the GC. They won't get anywhere in the stage, so by being a little bit in the front, there's Tommy Davey here on the point of the saddle under pressure, but if they can attack the Alpe d'Huez in the front before the big boys get there, it'll be a great advantage to them.
And Ellie leading up this little group here, and also coming up then from the Festinity. Looks like Yeka trying to make his way up that one as well. So they're putting quite a number of people. Yodo Bolts in for the Telecom team, number 202, and a little climbing there. I didn't spot it well. I think it might be Munoz at the moment. It's Camargo, is it? Right.
No, it's not actually, it's Munoz, yeah.
So beginning to form a nice little group at the front. It is Munoz, actually, it was there.
Yeah, Munoz, yeah.
And he's already been featuring in the climb. He was third over the top of the Col de Madeleine. Indrain in the yellow jersey. That's the pink jersey with the glasses. That's Zula. If you didn't watch our program yesterday, the strong lieutenant here.
Another one. Pascal Diffo, Laurent Diffo.
Well, that's amazing. They've got Yeka and Brochard and now Dufo going across to try and join them.
Yeah. This is well, depends on how Bianca is going today, but if Bianca has got ambitions and he feels he's going to be able to get across to these boys, well then we're going to live a very good stage, because I cannot see Indra letting Bianca go away. Well, letting Bianca going away on his own is one thing, but knowing that Bianca has 3 or 4 teammates in the front, he'd be very reluctant to let Bianca go.
And he's climbing up very well indeed, this lad Dufo, that you are picking a star of the future. And look at that already. We've started out with 154 riders. We've had the retirements of Cipollini, Van der Arden, Fonderes, Berzin and Molom. So we're down now to about 149. That's split now to about 50, yes. Jalabert.
That's
this is some race.
That's a turn for the books now.
Well, Jalabert on the
I'm sure they're trying to. They might have seen maybe that. And Frank has gone as well. That's not right. That's not very good of Frank now, you know. I'm sure when he gets across, Jalabert will have a few words with him maybe. But anyway, they might have seen Duran and having some difficulty maybe, or you see Duran letting all the boys go. So they thought, well, the way they might let us go as well. But I cannot see the Vanestos, if they can help it, letting these 2 boys get too far.
Frank this morning started out on general classification 13th, 14 minutes and 20 seconds down, but he's now got Jalabert with him, 8 minutes and 14 seconds down this morning, and they're going away from this pack, and that means that again Indrain will just have to keep his eyes open on the gap like he did yesterday with Zula. Zula got to a point where he's technically yellow jersey on the road, then Indrain unleashed that amazing turn of speed on the final climb to close that gap down to the very 2 minutes and 20 seconds at the end, and he nearly caught him in those final 2 kilometres. So perhaps he's playing his ever watchful waiting game, because we've got a long way yet to go. We're on the climb up the Col de la Croix de Fer, and when they get to the top of this climb they'll have covered 108 kilometres, and there'll still be some 52 kilometres to go to the finish, including the climb up the Alpe d'Huez. So it looks like an early battle is raging here, and Veronk is towing Jalabert up towards that little breakaway group that was started by Brochard. Davy went to him, then Rojas came across, then Ellie went across, Yeka and Munoz, and the main field now is fragmented and down to no more than about 50 riders.
Well, Jalabert, which you will, and then get across that group. Jalabert has 2 riders in the front. Behind has 4 riders in front. David, 4 he has.
He's got Yeka, Brochard, and then himself.
Diffo,
you see.
Diffo also.
Yeah.
It's that group could go a long way, because you must remember Indurain behind will only have maybe 1 or 2 teammates with him maybe to help him bring down the gap. So these boys are going to be working together, because they've every reason to work well together. So I can see this group going a long way, unless Indurain reacts himself and goes after him. Indurain only has 2 teammates with him at the moment, 3 teammates with him at the moment. So when you see the other boys getting the front, I'm sure you'll see an immediate these boys in the Festina team immediately going to the front and put the head down.
But there's got to be a certain size to this breakaway group. It looked about two men too many at the moment.
It does, but at the same time, there's a lot of riders in this group who will be hanging on. But you will see the 3 boys from the Festina team plus the other 2 boys from the Once team. That gives 5, 6, only 7 riders that are going to ride, with Jalabert sitting on the wheel, and with Johank. Johank and Jalabert probably won't do much riding themselves, but they were telling their teammates to ride. But looking down here, Jalabert is the best place on GC at the moment with 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Then looking down at further, you have Johank at 14 minutes 20 seconds. So Jalabert is the one that's going to gain the most from this breakaway group if it stays away.
So we have 12 men in this leading group at the moment, and 22 seconds is a gap back then to the peloton. This is a very good move by a very spirited attempt, first of all by Brochard. It must have been team tactics set to him before they start with it, because Brochard went, then Yeka, Jufar and Veronk, like that. It doesn't seem to have happened by accident.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier on. I was saying that it could be a move by them, the hope that Veronk might get away. But I didn't honestly believe that was going to happen. I thought thought, well, that's the way I would have done things maybe, but it's Hank now has reacted very, very good now in doing this. But I thought actually myself that Miguel should have reacted straight away, because letting Hank and Jalabert go away, in my opinion, knowing that they have 2 and 3 and 4 teammates in the front, I think it was a big mistake for Miguel. And everybody knows Miguel doesn't make that many mistakes.
Well, they went with 80 kilometres to go. That's 50 miles of racing ahead of them, and it's going to be a very, very good, exciting last 50 miles. Hope you can stay with myself, David Duffel, and my co-commentator here, Stephen Roche, for the rest of the race. If you've got to nip out, then put your recorder on, because we could be seeing yet again another cracking day's racing. They took it relatively easy to the time up the Col de Madeleine, came down the other side, and then suddenly it all blew apart at the seams just after the 80-kilometre point had been covered for the day. Just at the halfway point, and we got 12 men away in the lead. The teammates from the Festina team, Brochard, Dufo, Yeka, have got with them now Veronk. Royas is there from the Once team, Ellie from MG, Jalabert also there from the Once team, and we'll pick up the rest of those riders. In fact, our computer's saying 9. I counted 12, and one or two slipped across without me noting. I think about 12 there.
More there now, but look at these boys now. Brochard and Brochard at the bury himself now, because Brochard is down a lot on GC, so he's the one who has to do the most work now between now and the foot of Alpe d'Huez.
And they sent up a couple of motorcycles with there's Thomas Davey on the back, looking back to see what's going on, and I think he's asking what's the gap at the moment, but certainly there is Rojas, who was one of the early ones to go across.
Brooking is there as well.
Is he? Wow, that's good.
Yes.
So that's 3 from the Once then, isn't it? Because we've got Rojas, Jalabert and Brooking.
Yeah, it's Brooking is he getting on there, or is he is getting on? Yeah, or is he just hanging on? Difficult to know what he's having a good tour at the moment, Brooking is, but the mountains lately haven't been his best friend.
And Udo Boltz has made it across too for the Telecom team. That's in their 202, the German national champion. We've got one from the Ake team, which I haven't ID'd yet. The 154 is Ellie from the MG team. And Munoz, a little diminutive sprinter, diminutive mountain climber, is the one up there for the Kelme squad.
But Dave, we've been saying every day this is a great day's racing, but it's true. Every day has been a fantastic day's racing. It's like
Stevens has jumped across.
Stevens, he's there.
Wow.
Yeah. But every day here has been very, very exciting. We have every day is the jersey has changed shoulders 8 times already. We're only halfway into the tour. We have had 40 riders altogether so far abandoned in one sense or the other. The Tour de France, whether it be through illness, whether it be some riders eliminated yesterday. So far, every day has just been another success story. It's been great atmosphere every day, but attacks every day. There's been something happening every day. It's just great racing this year in the Tour de France. Of course, people have said, and I've said it myself as well, that after the time trial and after yesterday's stage and the domination of Indurain and the Benesto riders, that, well, nobody's going to attack them, and everybody now will be riding for the first place behind Indurain instead of riding for the first place on the podium in Paris. But I've proved myself wrong once again, because the boys there that are going in the front now today, they have something else in the back of their minds.
One thing you're going to learn, young Stephen, as a commentator, that you always put your foot in at some point or other. I'm well known for that, but there you are. We can't always be right, we're often wrong. We do the best we can here, and I hope you're enjoying this race back at home on this stage 10 of the Tour de France, from Aime La Plagne to Alpe d'Huez. 162 kilometres to cover today, 101 miles of racing. The Benesto team massing on the front to try and keep Indurain within spitting distance of the group that's now gone away. In that group at the moment, from the Festina team, Brochard, Dufo, Jeka and Veronk. From the Once team, Rojas, Breuking, Jalabert and Stevens. Ellie is there from MG, Munoz from the Kelme team, Boltz from the Telecom, and one rider I've yet to ID.
So Davey has dropped back, is that, I think, Dave? Thomas Daly has dropped back. Has he dropped back, or has he dropped?
Either one or other. He's now back with Indurain, so that's put one of the lieutenants back. And look at the masses of the Benestos on the front.
Well, he has. A few minutes ago we could only see 2 or 3 of his teammates there with him, but now he has actually 5 or 6, Dave. been able to come back. But basically, I feel what Indurain is trying to do here is to keep as many teammates with him, keep the tempo going, because after the call to the Quad Fair, there's almost 40 kilometres from the top down to the bottom of Alpe d'Huez at Bourgeois Zone. So I'm sure what he wants to do is try and keep the gap down to a minimum going up the hill, keeping as many teammates with him as he can, and then try to make them ride or eyeball out down to the foot of the climb, have one or two that will help him on the foot of Alpe d'Huez, and then maybe, if the need may be, then take over himself then for the final.
Will this also play into the hands of Zullo if Benesto got to try hard, because they've got so many Onsi runners up, including Jalabert, the best placed man, 8:14 down on Indurain. That must be good tactic again for Zullo's point of view.
Well, Indurain, I'm sure he's quite aware of that, and this is a tactic which would be ideal to set up Indurain, for example, to make sure to get rid of his teammates. So far, it hasn't got rid of too many of his teammates, but what Indurain will do is he keep his team together for as long as he can, hopefully until the end. As Neil Stevens gets dropped here, as we see, then we can get Indurain will try and keep his teammates with him as long as he can, so that when he hits the foot of Alpe d'Huez as well, as we saw yesterday, he's quite capable of defending himself for the last hill in any circumstances. So, and especially when he will only have to control Zule.
Well, let's hope he keeps fine for the riders today. We had terrible conditions yesterday when the clanging of the cowbells gave way to claps of thunder and the rain belted down on the riders as they came in toward the finish. I'm not quite sure whether the thunder was because somebody had the audacity to attack Indurain yesterday. Some big god up there got annoyed with the fact that the big MiG had got something having a guard in. But the weather conditions look quite nice today. They did promise it's going to get wet towards the end, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope we have a nice fine day. And we've got something like just under 50 miles to go on this stage 10 then of the Tour de France, with Indurain still in the yellow jersey and the Festina team doing a great job on the front.
They are. You see Jalabert just sitting in there at the moment. His teammates cannot give a hand at all, but with the three Festina riders in there doing a reasonably good job as it is, there's no reason for himself to panic or to start going to the front. But Jalabert has surprised everybody this year in everything he's done, not only in the Tour de France but also in the previous competitions he's done this year, in the classics, also in the small state races, winning some of them. And we see the points starting to split here, is it, Dave?
It is splitting quite considerably, and there Bjorn Rees has gone to the front. Wow! Well, Rees, who was only within 22 seconds of Indurain at one time, had a bad day yesterday. At the moment on general classification, Rees, that I'm looking down here, seems to have lost quite a bit of ground, so perhaps he's going then for a stage victory today. But really, he's hammering off here, off the front. I can't understand Rees' attack. Now, I suppose he's buzzing gone, he can do his own thing, can't he?
That's it, but at the same time...
In fact, he's third overall at 5:58 down.
He is, yeah. But one thing with Rees, I remember, which I just hope he's not doing the same thing again today, but I remember Rees in 1953 when he finished 5th in the Tour de France. He was 5th overall, and with 3 or 4 days to go, Capucci was lying 6th. Capucci took off one day and was 4 minutes ahead and was putting his 5th place overall in jeopardising his 5th place overall. So he rode in the front after Capucci and bringing up Indurain. Whereas today now we have Jalabert threatening his third place overall. So Jalabert being himself being 5:58 and Jalabert being 8:14. So Jalabert is only less than 3 minutes down on Rees at the moment on GC. So I just hope Rees now is not being worried about his third place being threatened. He should leave everything else to Indurain, leave them right in the front.
The Benestos massing on the front to make sure they can keep a watchful eye on these attacks which are coming thick and fast. Rees has dropped back into this little group now. He tried to get away just down the road. Still up in the lead. We have 4 from the Festina, 4 from Onsi. In fact, they're probably 3.5 because Stevens seems to be dropping back a bit. Elliott is here on his own. In fact, no, we've got a bit more of a change coming on. Going across off the front now. Yep.
Go now, yeah.
Looks like he's trying to join up with it. Ellie is in the lead at the moment, in that leading group, so can Francesco Bona get across? Very powerful. He's shoving quite a big gear up here.
He's actually on the big ring, as you can see here, which is, you know, I myself probably the only one on the big ring, because at this stage, like normally the Quad Fair is being a long hill, but it's only an average of 6%. So there are parts on the Quad Fair in the middle, for example, whereas it should be around the middle of it now. As he catches Brooking, there are kind of false blasts on it, but normally quite a fair, you go over it in about a 41, 17, 18, 19, depending on how strong you are. But Bona is under the big ring here, and he's probably using a 53 ring at the moment. We can't see what Broccoli's using, but he looks to be not actually in the top one, so he's probably on a 53.
Dropped it inside now.
Yeah.
He attacked on the outside ring, he dropped it inside. He's going straight past Neil Stevens, So Stevens is dropped off, Breuking's been dropped off, so the onset is now just down to Rojas and Jalabert at the front, but it's Festina that's driving this one hard. He's trying to ride up to join up with his teammate Ellie at the front. MG not having had a great tour as far as Bunyo is concerned, perhaps looking for a stage victory today, and somebody else coming up here yet again. In fact, they're Skartin, the teammate of Rominger. Well, normally he's been riding with Rominger.
Yeah, this man here has always been with Rominger's right-hand man. In the Tour of Spain, that Rominger has won, Skartin has always been Rominger's right-hand man. He's always just no more than 1 foot beside or 1 foot behind him. He protects him in the wind, he makes tempo for him in the mountains. Here he is having a go himself. So is he maybe going to the front, maybe to prepare, knowing that Rominger is going to have a go later on? Is Rominger got the same tactics? But I feel that when Rominger and Zuli and these people see the reaction of Skartin is leaving Bona behind, but when Zuli and Rominger, maybe they've seen maybe some kind of little bit of a lull in Indurain, maybe feeling Indurain is getting a little bit weaker as the gap goes up, looking at the 1 minute 5 seconds.
70 kilometres to go or thereabouts, 1 minute and 5 seconds, as one by one the riders that went with that early group are beginning to struggle under the pressure that's been put on by the Festina team. Now Bolt's at the back of this little group there. Ellie is in there at the moment. Bona's coming up with Skartin. Skartin's now left him. Can he join up with this group and add more firepower to it? The man who's going to benefit most of all is Laurent Jalabert, 6th overall, 8 minutes 14 seconds down on Miguel Indurain. Here comes some more help, but well, I just thought he would have stayed back with Rominger, so there must be a tactic in this one as well.
Well, like Rominger at the moment, like he's lost a lot of ground yesterday, so like he's in 4th place overall at 6 minutes 35 seconds down. But if Rominger is on good form today, he might be able to get across to this group. Indurain will be, of course, watching Rominger, but if Rominger has one man in front and one man like Skartin is a very, very good rider, first of all, Skartin has a chance of winning the stage, and second of all, if Rominger can get across to him, he's got a great man to make a tempo for him in the mountains.
Skartin then lying 10th overall on general classification, 13 minutes and 6 seconds down. So many of these riders well down on Indurain, but in the mountains a lot can change, and at the moment then the Festina riders who launched that attack pulled away quite a useful group of riders to the front of this field.
The group now is getting smaller and smaller as we approach the top of the quadrifier. But Miguel Indurain doesn't seem to be getting over anxious. Tempo is not a very fast tempo, as we can see. Indurain still has a few of his teammates around him, and the bunch is still fairly big. So once this train starts getting faster, that group should whittle down a lot. But we see Pontani here on the right hand side of the screen here. This is something we were saying the other day, is that the fact that now the Pontani is a little bit behind now on GC, will Indurain watch him, or will he maybe give him a little bit of rope? And unfortunately Pontani, the problem is that Pontani is like he has a group in front now, and as we saw last year, he was attacking onto the final hills, getting away, but always having somebody in the front, so he couldn't get himself a stage win. Hope myself it doesn't happen this year, because Pontani deserves to win a stage this year, because he had a bad accident before Tour of Italy, was wiped out of it. He got 8 stitches in his eye, he got a concussion as well, and hasn't had a last 2 months, hasn't been great for him. He's had knee troubles, he's only coming back out now, so it'd be good for Pontani, for his morale and also for his team, if he could get a stage win in this Tour de France.
Well, he'll have to wait till the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez and this lot all come together. Maybe his tactics, I suppose, at the moment, expecting the Benestos to pull them back. And an attack again coming up. It looks, they keep swinging the old cameras backwards and forwards as Ronk is on the front here at the moment. This group has formed, reformed, split, reformed and formed again. And we've got...
Berger.
Yeah.
Berger. Brunella. Berg and Bruno, where are they? We haven't got our motor 1 and motor 2 again, David, but they're actually there for attacking, so Berg is having to go across.
And Bruno going with him.
Yeah, so this is great now for if they can get across to the front group. You'd have Brunel and Jalabert of the All-State team, and Brunel, of course, being a great teammate. He would ride his eyeballs out for Jalabert.
Wellsberg, the Swiss rider, in quite useful form, coming into form just in the right time for the Tour this year, and Brunel, who had that yellow jersey in Liège, now riding like a new man. And he's in 23rd spot, 18.25 down, Brunel. Well, there must be something more behind this. It must be to aid Jalabert, mustn't it, for Brunel to go up there at the moment? Having seen Stevens come back, Broiking come back, and Brunel's gone past Berg at the moment.
Well, Brunel is of course, if he can get across to Jalabert's group, it'll be a great help for Jalabert. But at the same time, I'm sure he has his own personal thing in there as well. If he can get across the group and do well and get up the first 3 or 4 kilometres of the wedge before the group catch him, it should guarantee himself a good bounce forward on GC.
Wellsberg came into good form in the Tour of Romandy. He won the first stage of the race there, beating Rincon and Ugrimov to the line, and went on to finish in 5th spot overall. So he's just got his form about the right time, of course, being one of these Swiss mountain goats as such. He's way back down, 34th on general class, 25.30 down, so perhaps he's again looking for a stage victory, as the bunch of riders here soldiering on up, keeping an eye on the yellow jersey of Indurain that's got all his henchmen round about him. They don't seem to be too bothered at the moment.
That's the unfortunate thing about it. We're very much afraid of this happening, because yesterday's stage there was so much damage done by Indurain yesterday, that we're afraid of them all slowing things down, keeping it together, let the groups going away, and then just wait to see what happens.
This group of riders now down to just half a dozen. It was almost 12 strong at one time, but it's now been reduced somewhat, and the rider from the Acke team that's made it up there is Gilberto Simoni, who did quite some decent rides in the Tour of Italy, if memory serves me correctly, and I'll have to look back in my records there, but he's the one from the Acke team.
Escartin's got across there.
He has, so Escartin's now there from the Mappe team, has joined up in that group.
It's getting to be a very select group now. There's some of the lesser climber riders now have been all shut out in here. We have Bona, Escartin, we have Virenque, Zifo. We haven't seen them. Zifo gone, is he, or is it that Brochard's leading at the front? We know that there. We have a very select group of climbers here now. Ellie is there as well.
Ellie's a very good all-rounder, isn't he?
Yeah. So and it's actually Defoe that's riding on his foot now for behind.
And if Brunel gets across too, that's going to need even more firepower, but he's going to collect 1 or 2 riders on the way up who've been struggling a little bit on the pace. It's been forming, reforming, drifting back again on this long climb up toward the top of the Col de la Coiffe, where it's 1,500 metres of climbing. That's 4,600 feet in just on some 23 kilometres, all the way up to the top and then all the way down the other side, and then they go on the flat a little bit in towards the Alpe d'Huez before the final 8-mile climb of the day, those 21 hairpin bends.
As you see, Ellie, is Ellie this? Filling up his bottle.
Yeah, that's Ellie.
1/3. They're not actually pulling away very, very fast. The gap is opening up slowly, very, very slowly. But Jalabert will be being in the front here just after the descent of the Quarter Feder, the sprint. So there'll be opportunity for Jalabert to get more points now for his green jersey.
And Munoz, the Colombian rider, 108 in that little group, and this here, they've been tailed off. Actually, Bolts, Brochard, who started it all, being tailed off as well. Brochard was the one who set it all up to begin with for the Festina to start to try and dominate this one, and they've done a good job there. Johan Brunel has collected them on the way up, so Brochard now will probably try to hope to hang on to Brunel's wheel.
Well, the fact that Brochard got dropped from the front group group. He got dropped because he was under pressure, but it's amazing sometimes when you get dropped, you kind of ease up the pressure a little bit, because when you're hanging on, you're in the red. But he did a lot of driving himself, so when somebody else took over from the front, he got blown out, so he's had a kilometre or so to help himself recover a little bit, going at a lesser pace. But now that Brunel has caught up, he may have had time to recover, may be able to hang on to Brunel now, and maybe get back onto the group again.
And they're up there. That's it. The Col de la Croix de Fer. In fact, the last time I came over here, other than on the Tour de France, Steve, was in the Monte Carlo rally when it was snowing. We all got blocked the other side. That was a few years ago with a camera crew covering the rallies. I went out on many of those days, the Portuguese, the British, the RIC and so on. At a different time of the year when it's very cold and miserable. Right now where the sun is shining, and let's keep our fingers crossed that the storm clouds don't threaten this little group at the moment. Looking there at Simone, the Aki GPM rider, who isn't doing any work at the moment, just following the wheels with, I suppose, so many riders of the... Hello, we didn't see number 17 tip across there, did we? Because we've got Gotti in this little group. He must have gone across without us spotting it. Gotti's in there.
Oh, yes.
There he is. Look.
He is, yeah.
Way.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Things are hotting up, Dave, huh?
Yep, because Gotti on general classification, he took the yellow jersey. He's 5th overall, so we've got the man who's 5th on general classification in this group. We've got Jalabert, who's 6th at the moment as well, and the crowd actually waiting for them to come into sight.
Escarta, who's 10th. This is a very, very strange situation now. This has never actually happened in the last 4 Tour de France, and Miguel Indurain has won. To have so many men actually close to him on GC, letting them all go in the front.
And looking here at... Oh, they're beginning to split a bit here. Well, Jalabert's eased back for a chat. He seems to have, some reason, I'll just let that group go. He's got Munoz behind him, heading up towards the Croix de Fer. The last time I went over in 1992, Boyer took the success that time. Before in 89, it was Tunisia. Way back in 86, it was Hino. We've used this climb since 1947 when Camellini went over in first start. So Gotti is up with his breakaway group at the moment, which includes Simone, Escartin, Vona, Eli, Munoz, Jalabert and Vironk. A very good fast-moving group heading up toward the top of the Col de la Croix de Fer.